Meeting to order. Welcome to the January 28th Conservation Commission meeting. All right. So we'll start the meeting off with the approval of our meeting minutes from January 7th, 2019. Does anybody have any comments or corrections on the minutes?
I have one, I don't know what paragraph it is, but it's one of the first paragraphs. Don Oliver should be Don McIver.
Oh, yeah.
Also, I think the first paragraph of the anyway, the first paragraph of the actual starting of not the not the discussion items, but the next thing, the next scheduled item should say at the end, I think, that the owner agreed to continue to January 28th to allow for site visits, because it doesn't say what happened at the end there. And then just a couple other small edits.
Okay. So I guess we can put those aside for Amy. Does anybody else have any comments, edits to the minutes? No? Would anybody like to make a motion to approve them as amended?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, perfect. All right, administrative discussion. Jerky Lot 14 new owner. Is anybody here for that? Oh, come on up, sir. Welcome to town.
Thank you. I've been here for a year and a half. It was kind of weird. We didn't get scheduled. We didn't hear about this until Amy reached out to us recently. So,
Excellent. So would anybody like to?
So does what does your lot back up to conservation?
no, we're
easement?
actually surrounded on three sides by built properties, and the street on the fourth side.
You are.
Amy said he is, what, she said BZ on one side?
Buffer
BZ.
zone.
There you go. Thank you.
So you have
Sweet.
buffer zone.
So you have buffer zone in the front yard, so that's what
in the
Amy's
front yard.
email said.
Does your front
And
yard
so-
abut a street?
Oh well, yeah. The front yard goes to the street. Yep.
So it's across the street.
Okay, but I mean, so technically, if it's in a buffer zone, it's a jurisdictional area. So if you were going to do work in that area, you would need to contact us. I'm assuming it's probably in that. So there's a 100-foot buffer for wetlands, and so that area, the Wetlands Protection Act has jurisdiction, and so we basically implement that act. So if you wanted to do something, I would just call Amy first. I'm guessing you're at the outer,
Sounds
it's like 80 to 100 feet or something like that, and so it would be, usually it's typically, folks request a determination of applicability, and so that means you basically get an answer fairly quickly and usually can move on with your day. If it's a more involved project, there's a lot more of a process that I'm not going to go through tonight.
Sure.
And any part of your lot that's already lawn, you can maintain.
Yeah, it's a
Lawn.
sidewalk and lawn. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, so it's probably, but to be on the safe side, because if you were to put something in and not follow like the permitting, technically you could be asked to restore the site to original conditions,
Mhm.
that type of thing. Technically you could be asked to do that, so
Sure.
I think we just ask people to come in.
So whatever's existing, the developer got permitted.
Right.
Oh, okay.
That's basically what it's saying. So anything.
Right, so there's like a
new-
light post out there, so they would have
Right.
gotten that permit insurance.
Right.
Right.
All right. Did you have any questions for us?
No, I don't think so. I'm not sure exactly where that falls in the yard, but yeah, it's just grass and a sidewalk, so
Yeah.
Don't foresee
I
any major
think you're
projects.
probably on the outer ranges of it,
Yeah.
but just be on the safe side.
it's a septic too. Yeah, so it's like septic
Septic's
sidewalk.
in the front too.
Yep.
Yeah, I think septic's in the front for think the whole
No,
development isn't.
okay.
Or
I
most
don't
of
know.
it.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't be
Pretty
sure
sure.
where the because the septic goes almost to the sidewalk, and then
Yeah.
there's a foot-long strip of grass, and then street.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Do you have a copy of the plan at home?
I do have the lot plan.
Okay.
Yeah, I have that at home. Yep.
Excellent. I was going to say if you didn't have one, we could
Yeah.
probably give you one.
But I don't remember any. It doesn't have that dotted line like the other lots do for the conservation buffer
That's
zone that I can
different, 'cause
recall.
they're right on a conservation easement, or it's different
Oh,
than your
okay.
situation.
Oh, I see. Right, because I've seen other lots where they have the dotted line
Yeah.
indicating the buffer zone.
Yeah.
You could ask Amy though. I mean,
Yeah.
if you know.
Sure.
If you're
Yeah, we don't
Yeah.
foresee anything,
we
but
can, I'm just trying to think, maybe like a fence, I think would apply, but
Mhm.
certainly not if you're gonna plant a bush or, garden or something.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
but I'm thinking a fence would probably be the most likely scenario.
Yeah. I can. Yeah.
So,
Excellent.
So,
okay.
thanks.
Thanks
All right, thanks for
in.
coming in. All right, so if it's okay with everybody else, I'll jump ahead to the 735 request for permit extension. Mass DEP file number 204-209A, Cobb's Pond Aquatic Vegetation Maintenance.
Hi.
Hi, come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Dominic Maringolo. I'm with Solitude Lake
Was it-
Management.
Oh yeah, if you could have a seat, thanks.
Did people get a chance to look at the letter? You sent the
Yes, I sent
letter.
Amy a letter last week. I'm not sure if you folks had a chance to look at it. We've been conducting a maintenance program on Cobb's Pond for many years. The program essentially consists of filing a permit with Mass DEP Office of Watershed Management to perform the herbicide algicides if needed, pre-treatment inspections, treatments if needed, post-treatment inspections. We kind of do that every year. So we go out, look at the pond, see if either we have invasive plants or an excessive kind of growth of plants, and we do treatments as needed, either submerged plant growth, algae, water lilies. Essentially what we're trying to do is, because of the conditions of the pond, unmanaged, it would basically become 100% covered with topped out submerged vegetation and lily pads. So what we're trying to do is, we're not trying to eliminate all growth in the pond, we're just trying to maintain kind of a balanced habitat of open water and vegetated areas. I know this program's been going on for quite some time. We're essentially, we're not doing whole pond treatments. It's really just kind of doing an inspection, seeing where the excessive growth is, doing partial treatments of the pond only as needed. So we're definitely very much in a maintenance type of a program at this point. Our company, we've been doing the project since the beginning, where we deal with all different types of management techniques, not just the treatment. So we're always capable of evaluating if there's any different type of technique that would be better, or if there's a new product or anything like that that we could potentially use in the program. So we just asked that the order be extended for another 3 years so that we can continue the management program. Happy to answer any questions.
Just for full disclosure, I work for the Division of Watershed Management.
Okay.
But in the Water Quality Standards Group, I don't review what you submit. So,
Okay.
I think you're okay.
Did everybody have a chance to read the letter that Amy sent out
Yeah.
about this?
I don't think I saw it. I was just looking for it.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is it's been going on for a long time, and they are controlling invasives that, I guess we would consider just extending it. How do others feel?
When was the last time you treated, and what did you do?
We did treatments this year. Did just selective treatments of some of the water lilies and a part of the pond for milfoil growth
Okay.
this year.
And the water lilies are invasive.
Well, they can be. I mean, with that shallow
They're
type of
aggressive.
a pond.
Are they invasive or aggressive?
I guess I would say, given the shallow conditions of the pond, in that particular pond, they're aggressive. I wouldn't consider them necessarily invasive. They are a native species.
Yep, that was my
So
question.
we're just trying to kind of maintain a balance, so maintain a cover of the lily pads, but not let them
Yeah.
kind of take over the entire surface of the pond. But our goal is not to treat all of the lily pads. So generally we're out spot treating new pads that are popping up like in the middle of the pond, and generally like the back side of the pond along the wooded shoreline, we're leaving a good sized band of lilies in those areas.
Just the other thing that Amy indicated that we've been extending the NOI for 20 years.
20 years.
It's
This
been a
seems
while.
like a long time. So maybe I did see.
I know. I understand
or
there's some
no-
concern. I mean, it's still the same
Yeah.
owners. You know, we.
And
I
lots
don't believe there's
changed.
really a lot of abutters. There's no
Yeah.
no reason really to change the program. If there was in the future any reason to either add a product or try a different technique, we would come in, either ask for a project change or an amended order.
Do you think there's a hardship to other than it takes a little bit of time to filing a new NOI? Because I'm just wondering if there's kind of things we need to look at, or maybe I'm feeling a little bit of a loss without having Amy to help discuss
Yeah.
this with us.
So, so Amy had mentioned.
Lee's
Rick,
here.
did you have a question?
I'm just going to say that the land is probably going to change hands soon. It's sort of on the market. So that may be the time to have a new NOI, which will be in
Okay.
next year.
The land being the pond itself?
Yeah,
Oh,
the house is being sold and not a lot behind, but that includes the pond.
oh.
So I
So
wonder.
the owner of the land owns the pond?
I believe it does. The Conservation Trust owns right up to the edge of it, half of it or part of it.
Hmm.
But I think the actual ownership of the pond will go with the house, I believe. I could be wrong. But that would be certainly a time to relook at it.
Yeah.
So I wonder if instead of like a blanket 3-year extension, if we're able to condition it, you know, or if there's a new, or if there's a new owner. I don't know if we can do that or not, but
I know,
I'm
that's,
just hesitant to, something that's 20 years old. I think there's merit. I support
Mhm.
what you're doing. I think there's absolutely merit. I just am hesitant to continue to extend something that's that old without at least taking a little.
I'm happy to answer any
Yeah.
questions. I mean, as I
Yeah.
said, the techniques haven't changed all that much. I know there's
Yeah.
a
The
lot of
products
times when we
change though,
have.
don't they?
I'm sorry.
The products that you use, those change.
Believe it or not, I mean, for the most part, we're using the same type of herbicides and algicides. I mean, the aquatics industry is kind of a limited market. It's very difficult to get new
Okay.
products registered with EPA because
Yep.
it's such a sensitive environment. So
Right.
there's really, there have been maybe a couple, 2 or 3 since the project started. Just not anything that we would feel the need to use on this. They're very specific for other types of plants. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, in other towns, I mean, where there's a lot of abutters or a lot of residents and there's a lot of turnover and people maybe don't really know what's going on. I know that some of the commissions have decided that it's time to get a new one
Yeah.
going, but
So I kind of feel comfortable just renewing it
Okay.
because just of what
Mhm.
you said,
And
it
they'll be
hasn't
back here.
changed. And then if there's a new owner that comes in, they'll be back, you'll be back, and
right. I just don't know, and I'm not entirely sure what the I don't know, and I did hear from their lawyer that they were considering to sell the property. I don't know exactly.
yeah, so it may not even happen. Who knows?
When I talked to him, he seemed to indicate that the Cobbs were trying to put kind of association back together. So it almost seemed to me that maybe the pond was on some type of common ground, but maybe Amy would know more about that. I mean, I guess the other thing you could consider is you could have this 1-year extension that we have to come back again around this time next year if there's an option.
I mean, I know
to-
we're not allowed to extend it too often. I know there are rules around that, and I don't know where this fits in. I mean, there may be exceptions for maintenance cases like this where it's gone on for years and,
I'm not aware of DEP that has any limit unless you have a bylaw that has a limit, but there's been other orders that have been going on this long. I don't believe that there's a regulation per se that limits how long they can be extended.
other ones I thought there were. I mean, we've discussed extensions before, and I thought that Amy said that there was some requirements for how many times you can extend it. It was a fairly recent change in the Wetland Protection Act.
I haven't run across that yet, but maybe,
No.
yeah, Amy might know more.
Well, when does your permit expire?
I want to say probably February or March. So, I think
So do you have a chance to come in at another meeting when Amy's back? We can discuss it further prior to your permit expiring.
if you feel that's necessary, that's. I mean, Amy asked us to come in
She
today.
did.
She wanted, obviously, I mean, I think she didn't want to speak for the commission, but she did say that there was that you wanted some discussion because it had been open so long. But
Mhm.
yeah, she didn't indicate that she wanted to talk to you guys first, and then they asked us to come in. But
So it may make some sense just to have them come back if their permit hasn't expired.
Yeah.
To have those discussions, because I think the commission might feel more comfortable.
Yeah, because our chair isn't here
Right.
and Amy's
Okay.
not here.
So that's why if you can,
Apologize, we're
if
in
you
a kind of
can
a
make
tough
it.
spot.
I know.
If you can make it and we don't go beyond the expiration of the permit, and then
Okay.
we'll do what we need to do.
I think she said as long as we had requested it the 30 days prior, that it didn't actually matter when it actually ended up getting extended. So I mean, if you folks want to have a internal discussion at your next meeting or next time you folks get together and talk it over, if you want us to come back in, we'd be happy to. If you wanted to make a decision after hearing
you know.
what I've said tonight and what you guys talked
Yeah.
about, that's fine too.
Do you guys want to table this until the
Yeah.
next meeting then?
I'd put it on the next agenda.
All right.
All right, very
Can
good.
you tell them
Thank
what
you so
the
much
date-
for coming
you
in.
know what the
Thank
date
Thank you.
is?
So our next meeting is February 11th.
The 11th, okay.
Okay.
And
Great.
what time? She knows what time to come in.
We'll try to put you on for 7:45. I have no control over that, so.
We'll get you on early.
All right, so our next item, 7:45 p.m., is a public meeting request for determination of applicability, 21 New Estate Road, replacement of failing septic system.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Neil Gorman from David E. Ross Associates, and this is George Miller, the property owner. And as you mentioned, we are here before you for a request for determination of applicability, seeking a negative determination for this proposed project. Project is an existing dwelling, 3-bedroom dwelling, where its plumbing comes out the back, existing septic tank here, existing leaching field here, and wetland to the rear of that. So the existing leach field right now is probably as near as 15 feet from the wetland area. The proposed project is to, between the existing tank and the house, sit a new 1,500-gallon septic tank, and then run a sewer line to 2 new leaching trenches that are located outside the 100-foot buffer zone. So all the work is in a lawn area now. There isn't any trees to be removed. The proposed tank is 53 feet from the wetlands now, and we do have a straw wattle siltation barrier that will encompass the excavation work for the tank and the sewer line. So that barrier runs all the way over to where the trenches are outside the 100-foot buffer zone.
Does
So-
the barrier go within the 50?
I'm sorry?
Does the barrier?
The barrier is just inside the 50. We could
Any way to? yeah.
maybe tuck it up a little bit closer. Again, we're in an existing lawned area now, so
It's long till hopefully,
pretty close.
I drive by your house. I live on New Estate too, so I drive by and I'm familiar with, just the lot in general. And so it's grass for a ways back.
There's a patio area here, so they're gonna have to maneuver to get the tank
Is
in
it going to be
there.
mounded?
No, actually, this is all nice gravel up in this corner, so it is not a mounded system. It's gonna be gravity fed.
Yeah, New Estate's
2
a
new
hill.
trenches right in the ground, and the grades will stay the same.
Yeah, so the wetland that's created, it's kind of just this depression that parallels New Estate. I've been back there a few times off of Uplands Road, which is here, and kind of walked through. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a stream. There's no perennial stream or
It's almost
anything
isolated
like that.
in a way,
It's,
yeah.
well, it's very large.
Right,
But,
yeah,
but yeah,
stands
it's-
on its own.
Yeah, so it's that's kind of an interesting situation. But I almost wonder if it was created like during the construction of New Estate,
Probably.
Uplands to an extent. So, at any rate, so I
So what's
Go
your
by there all the
what's your
time.
opinion?
I think this is fine. I think it's good that the leaching field is being moved out of the 100-foot buffer. You know, it's up as the hill rises.
Yeah.
So I don't see any groundwater or wetland impacts from the leach field. We're pulling a failing system farther back from a wetland. So I,
Okay.
I mean, I would agree, I like the leaching field, away, out of the 100 is great. I would say that I wouldn't be able to give you an NDA though unless the work area is outside the 50.
And yeah, we can tuck up the
that's true.
With a
barrier
good
a little
toe.
bit closer, but
Yeah, just do your toe slope outside the 50. We'll put your hay
I
bales.
mean, the tank just, it has to be 10 feet off the house. That's Board of Health regulation.
Yeah, I'm
So
fine
we're-
with the tank there, but if you can have the limit of work.
So no work within 50 feet.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
We just
Yeah.
put the
Because
barrier.
we
It'll
have-
make for a tight squeeze of putting the tank in, but
Well, we have the 50-foot, it's a
no
jurisdiction
disturb zone.
area.
I
Yeah,
know,
you
but it's already
no
a
disturb.
pre-existing lawn as
Yep.
we're dealing with here. We're not creating a lawn.
Understood. But for
It's
a-
already maintained and mowed. It's gonna be grass and seeded when we're done, so,
So I agree. Move it out of the 50, and I think we're good.
okay. Yeah, well, we'll revise the barrier and make sure that there isn't any work within 50 feet.
Okay.
Fantastic.
So we
All right.
can make
Make sense? Okay.
Do you guys want to wait until the next meeting to issue a determination, or do you want to make one tonight conditional upon us moving the?
It's not gonna take much for us to revise the plan, so I mean, if you,
I think we can make it conditional
Contingent, yeah.
for Amy, right?
Okay.
We can,
Contingent
Yeah.
to revise the plan revision,
and
and
then
then
Amy
she
can
can
issue
just
it.
issue it.
yeah, once we have
Okay.
a revised
We
plan.
need another meeting.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So would somebody like to make a motion to issue a -3 determination?
I'd like to make a motion to issue a -3 determination of applicability for 21 New Estate Road. Replacement of failing septic system on condition that the plan be revised so that the limit of work be outside the 50.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Excellent, thank you. All set. All right, have a good night. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think there's actually a sheet for us to sign at the very front of that box.
This thing?
Yeah, not that one. It's.
Nope.
I'll see if we can. If I can
Is it
dig it
the-
out.
That one, on the right behind. The WP.
Oh, this thing?
Yeah.
That's the extension permit. That was the first,
Oh.
maybe it's,
Let me just see what we got here. Oh, actually, you know what? I can see here. Let's see. So while we're looking for that, our next item is 86 Colonial Drive, DEP file number 204-665, potential wetland impact.
Hi,
Hey.
my name is Liz Honchel. I live at 92 Colonial Drive, and the residence in question is 86 Colonial Drive, which is right next door to my house. Just to give you a little back scope about this project, we started this a long time ago. It was under my sister-in-law's name at first, and then my husband was going to build it. He's since passed away, so I'm sort of picking up the pieces where he left off, if you will. In going through some, going back and forth with the building department, Shelley in the building department had brought it to my attention that Amy was looking to speak to me regarding an order of conditions that was on the house. So I called her. I said, "Yep, what do we need to do? Come on out." So she came out and looked at the property. I've put a stone. I've had the property surveyed. And put just one stone as a means to identify my property lines, if you will. So she had walked the area with me. In the back right corner, she had noticed a place where the fill kind of went a little too high. She was worried about it going off. There's land behind me that's conservation. So she said to pull that back. And then over when we were building the house, I had plugged power, so I just put a board behind there's a stream that runs through. I had put a board over. She's like, that has to go. I'm like, it will. We're self-sufficient now. We're just running power from my house at the time. So I have to replace a rock. And so then she's like, I think that's good. But then she got home and, or she got back to the office and said that she was two things, that she wanted to see if I had an as-built for both the septic and if it was recorded, and an as-built for the land. And so I said to her, I really don't know. I'm learning this as I go. So what I did is, I know she came down to take some pictures. I also brought some just so I would have a point of reference for you. The area in question is this area right here. This is the property that goes, sorry, I have to look at it. This is my home right here with the tank, and this is the property of 86. So there's a buffer here that's about 25 to 30 feet wide. Okay, so that's the area in question. I live at the bottom of the hill at Colonial. There's a lot of water that comes down from 4 houses up. Just to support that, it's constantly running. Like, this was taken as of today, and then this was taken in November, and the water is just pitching and deteriorating in front of one of the other houses in front of me. So what's happening is the water's coming down like this along the right side of the street. And then what I tried to do when they were building the house is create a berm to put it into this stream right here. This was already an existing stream. But the area, this area right here, I should have made copies, sorry. This is the area, this is the new foundation. So this area was so saturated, I lost a tree. It just, like, LELD came down to attach the power, and they literally sunk the truck where they had to bring another truck in. I mean, that's how wet we are. I mean, even today, just measuring and taking these pictures, I was thinking, and the ground is for the most part frozen, you know, and there's still some saturated parts. So what I tried to do when I was constructing this is to give them access to build the house over here. I put loam down. I just, you know, I don't remember how many yards. I can definitely let you know, but I just put like a top dress on it just to kind of hard pack it in a little bit. I did have one tree that got lost. There's one of the so there's a tree that would have been right here that got lost. It just fell down, so I took it down. But again, I did this not realizing the impact that I had an order of conditions. I can tell you I am brand new to this, building, picking up. I'm just trying to finish what we started. So in no means was this malintent or, you know, I keep that area pretty nice down there, you know. And like I said, I had a lot of rocks from when the house was dug up, so I just created that boundary. So I'm asking what it is I do to be compliant. You know, I don't even know where I start with this process, so I'm looking for a little guidance.
Do you know when the order of conditions was issued?
Yep, I have it with me. So the order of conditions was issued in 2009. So here's the next fun part of my whole dilemma here. The order of condition was under my sister Carolyn's name in 2009. My youngest daughter was diagnosed with cancer that same year. So the project was put on hold while she went through her treatment. She was great, she's good. We started up, Frank was a self-contractor. He was going to do this house for his sister. They were going to move up from Pennsylvania. So then we get that all done. I have the as-built for the septic and the as-built for the plot plan approved in 2013. Shortly thereafter, my husband was diagnosed with cancer. So the project stalled again, as was Carolyn, and they have both since passed away. So I really am just going through tubs and tubs of information trying to figure out what I got. So I know Amy's concern was that these were dated in 2013. The construction of this house has only started of April this year. There's nothing really else been going on. It's just been a vacant lot for as long as I can remember. We had the septic put in probably around this time because its permit was expiring and had been extended, and so we did that.
Wait, so order of conditions was issued in 2009,
Yeah,
but the house wasn't built until 2013?
correct.
The same one that was permitted?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. So I've got extensions, and when my husband passed away, he passed away in 16. I went to the building department, we transferred it to a different builder, so the permits are up to speed on their end. Again, I just didn't know that this
Nobody
existed,
caught this.
you know. The major problem I have is the water from the street. There's no way, the town has paved the roads, but they stop at the mailboxes at Worcester Drive. They don't come down. And I've talked to Jimmy Clyde, who I now know is retired, but, you know, it was one of those things, if you go down Colonial Drive, it's constantly water. And if you look in front of, it's in the 70s, I'm not sure, 78 maybe, I think there's an old well that's just not been ever, so the the deterioration in the road speaks for itself as far as the volume of water that's coming down. So my best plan was just to reroute it. So I'm not looking to extend my this area for right now it's top stressed and it's got seed on it.
How does that picture relate to the street? Is that across the,
So this is my back corner where Amy had mentioned it goes a little too high. She wanted it pushed back. So this, if you're in the back of the house like this, it's your right corner here.
okay.
So this was just one area of concern. She just wanted me to pull it back a little, so it's not gonna go over in any case, because back here is your land. Okay? So then this is looking from that back same point, but looking up to the street. This is Colonial here, and this is the 86 side of the driveway.
Oh.
This is looking from Colonial down between both houses. And then this one is just another, this was the board that Amy had mentioned to me to get rid of and put a rock here. This was the connecting point between the two houses. Just a plank I put for temporary means of building.
So is all this wetland town land all the way around your property or just on that side?
So, no, it's just this side.
Just
So
that
this
side.
is my property here.
Yeah,
This is,
Yeah.
this is my property here. This right here is wetland.
yeah.
This is Jim Mara's house,
Right.
and this is my home.
This is your home.
This is my home at 92.
92, but this is the one that's been
Yeah.
built, right?
So, yep, so this,
2013, so you have wetland between your house.
hmm
There's wetland between your house and this.
yep, which is this area right here. That's the
So-
area.
Do you have this delineated out there so that, is it flagged and are there?
I have not seen any flags. I'm sure it was at one point, whether
So-
between everything it got,
So we may need to recreate where the wetland is to figure out, make sure that you're okay with the plan that was approved.
okay, so how do I go
I
forward
think
doing
to start
that?
with, right? We're trying to get back and,
I can't
Find
see
out-
is there a wetland line on that?
yeah, there's a wetland line.
This is
And
pretty
it's
much the
outside of
stream
this
right
channel,
here.
'cause it's pretty channelized there. It's
Yeah.
like
So,
I would think
This
the
is
line
the-
would be right on the bank, wouldn't it?
This is the area that I believe, like the stream I just followed, the stream, it wasn't removed in any way. It looks like a crooked little line down the property.
and the stream is completely
Untouched.
bouldered on each side,
It's on each side,
right?
yep, yep.
So it's almost like a sluice way.
Yeah.
The
Uh,
catnip
So,
come
so what are
up
you
or
saying, that you
whatever.
think the wetland probably falls atop of that?
I would think so, but, I mean, it's hard to tell by this because it has sort of these wetland-like
So-
plants on the outside of the stream.
You have a
So the,
probably
I mean,
surrounding stream too.
so from this picture, you can obviously see the silts migrating, right, to the stream.
Yeah, the whole pitch of the yard is like
So,
this.
I think and this was prior to the 50-foot setback, so so it's probably right up to the wetland boundary. Or, I mean, we typically wouldn't do that, we would still set it back. So it'd be nice to know where the setback was for you developing this piece of land. Like, where did we put the no disturb area?
Okay.
That would be
I
helpful.
have no idea how to
Amy's
find
files.
that.
That's
That-
Amy's
that-
gotta have
So-
some
That'd be
files.
helpful, because once we find that,
Oh.
then we
See
can
if
figure
files.
out, if there's any
What to do.
restoration
How to proceed.
restoration that needs to be done.
Okay.
And then we'll see if we can get you back on the straight and narrow.
Yeah, that please.
I mean,
I
that's
would
our
like
goal.
to not hold my head down in town. You know,
That's
I
our-
really didn't know I was breaking any rules.
Well, we can, I mean, we can help you get this straight. We just
Now,
have
she
to-
had mentioned that she
Know
wasn't
where
sure
we're
if you would
starting.
have me, like, rip everything up and restore it to its, like, I'm a little worried about the financial impact that's gonna have on
I guess I
myself.
don't understand what your work, what your work was necessarily, and where, like what.
So this was
Yeah, I
my
don't think
work
we have
right
a
here.
basis
Was it
for
just-
restoration at the
yeah.
moment.
This
We
was
need
the
to know
work
what-
right here. This is your front septic. This is my house. So this was just, Colonial Drive was all lake houses at the time. So this was where we put the house. It's a 2-bedroom house. This is your field up here. So this is where Amy's concern came up. Like, this is very close to my house. Again, this is the 30-foot margin I'm showing you in that picture. So I'm not totally sure, but my guess is, because of the way this is that was the stream. The stream has been there since I've been there for 20 plus years.
Yeah,
So what I had to do, or what I felt was the right decision, which I'm thinking is wrong now, the water comes down at such a pace, I created and if you go down there, all this just goes at a slant this way. So I was trying to redirect it to the top of the point here to go in the stream to flow out. Because what was happening is this side of the property was so wet, when LELD came,
wetland.
okay, sorry, this is Colonial Drive, I'm doing it backwards. This, I believe the stream follows, because it's a crooked line, I believe the stones that I put there followed, we didn't recourse the stream at all. The stream stayed the way it is. We just surrounded
boundary.
it, created a boundary, didn't touch any of the vegetation in it or anything like that. But if you
Oh,
come
you
in
mean
from
you
Colonial
placed-
here,
You placed
the stones were, some of the
Yeah.
stones were there, but I built them up. Some of the stones were there, but I built them up. So they're level with the ground.
Okay, but that picture right there.
Yep, this is your stone. So this,
Were those stones always there?
the stones on the bottom were always there, but you're just getting the fill off. So I tried to build it up a little to create that berm to go in. So it
So-
wasn't like you had like a gushing over a certain area.
that stream channel wasn't always bordered on both sides with rock?
It was, but not as high. I had put it up a little. It wasn't as, now it's level to the ground.
Yeah.
So the ground was always that level?
No, the ground, so if this is your stream here, it's almost like it tipped over this way. So by creating 1 or 2 more rocks this way and following the already existing channel, it helped me divert the water this way instead of the water going over the bigger area. That was my intent.
So that probably wasn't on the original permit, I would think. We have some homework to do.
Yeah, I think we need
Okay.
to
Because-
ask
because
you to pull
otherwise-
files.
That's fine, you know,
Otherwise
whatever
we're
it is, I
kinda
just want to be in
grasping.
compliance at the end of it.
Yeah.
So whatever I need to do, there's all been grass put here, you know, but if we want to restore that back, so I guess my biggest concern is that if I have to dig this all up, which I'm not saying I do or I don't, that's a huge financial hardship for me. And so I'm wondering, is there a way to compromise to
Well, let's
plant
figure out
bushes or
what the-
whatever
let's
it
figure
was?
out- Let's take step one, let's figure out what the issue is, so we all have an
Okay.
understanding of that,
Yep, okay,
and then we can take it from there.
okay. So you just tell me what you need from me, because I need a little guidance in
We
this
probably
department.
have all the paperwork here.
I think we
Yeah, I would
do.
imagine Amy. But we need some time to go through it.
Yeah.
You can't really, I
No.
don't think we really have time to.
No,
start
that's
from
fine. I can
scratch.
leave you the pictures. I can email you the pictures so you can
Perfect.
pass them along independently of each other. I didn't really know how many people were on the board, if I should make copies. I was trying to give you a
Yeah.
bigger picture.
Yep.
No,
No, your pictures are helpful.
You know, if you go down to Colonial, you'll see exactly this. Some of these pictures were taken today.
So
But
is
whatever
that-
I need.
Is that other house completely built now?
It's just about done. Yep, it's got about 4 weeks now left. So I hope to rent it in March, and you know, Frank and my dream was to have the kids stay there, so that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
Also, Jim and Sarah might have even been involved in this.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's true. They've been.
I was having
Around.
babies, he was building buildings, so I really am learning all about variances and order of conditions and everything else. But whatever I gotta do to be compliant is why I'm here. At least start the discussion.
Would it make sense to maybe go out and do like a site walk just to see it in person? just to-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So maybe we can schedule one of those in the meantime between the next meeting and.
Oh, if
Yeah.
we can see it from the road, should we? I mean, we
You,
could do
you
drive-bys
could
too.
literally drive down and just walk the road, or if you want me to be there, I mean, I live next door, so I'm very accessible, so.
Trouble is, it's gonna snow on Wednesday,
Oh, is
Yeah.
that?
uh, and we can't do sidewalks when the ground is covered,
Okay.
Right, that's
so,
true.
it's gonna be limited tomorrow.
Okay.
or-
Well, what's the, I guess on my end, is there an
Drive
urgent,
by.
like, I haven't been
No.
formally, is there an urgency on my end that I need to be,
Just don't do anything else with the stream area
okay?
until you see us again. I mean, I think that's.
Yeah, I can't even pull back where she wanted
Yeah,
until
well,
the
it's-
ground unfreezes
But
and,
like, don't add anything. You know,
Okay.
do nothing.
Okay.
In the like stream and the area directly adjacent.
okay.
And is this, your copy, or is?
You can have that, you can have that if you want, and
Do you have another copy of that?
I do,
'Cause you-
yeah,
okay.
Amy emailed it to me.
Okay.
So the only other thing is I had to make sure that these were, with the town, but again, they might have to be redone, I don't know. I don't know what the process is. I'm here to understand what the process is and go through that. But that's it, that's all I got for you.
All right. So it sounds like we'll do some homework, maybe set up
Yeah.
a site walk within the next couple of weeks. And
Yep,
Yeah.
Then we'll have this back on our agenda for the 11th.
okay,
All
sounds good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. I'm just gonna take this
Oh,
because I
take the
don't have an
pictures,
extra
so-
copy of this, but you
You
can
can-
keep the pictures.
Oh, actually, we have to keep the pictures for
Yeah,
public
you can-
record since we used them at the meeting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I'll
You
stick
can
those
keep
in
the
the file.
pictures.
Does she have another copy of
I have the email. I can email them to you as well if you want.
Okay.
That way you can pass them on amongst each other. Thank you.
Thank you.
What about these look original,
Those are.
Those are
Amy's.
Those are
mine.
ours, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll put these back in the file.
Thank you.
these are all.
Yep. All right. Okay, so our next,
Oh, one more minute.
one more minute. So let me just rearrange the files and we'll wait just a second.
Does Amy have any notes on this one?
Yeah.
So who's gonna fill Amy in on all this?
I'll send her an email after the meeting.
And I'm trying to type
Huh?
notes as we go.
Oh, yeah, is she watching? She might be watching.
She is, but I think she wanted some notes if we could.
Did you get all that, Amy? Okay.
I'm trying.
Okay, here's notes, I see some notes on King
Yeah.
All right.
No, I'm trying to create some notes for
Ray
Amy.
Lyons.
Hi
Yep.
there.
Hey.
Good evening, I am.
All right, so we will go ahead and open our 8:15 discussion, the Kinghorn Conservation Restriction.
Just give me a moment to get my little checklist of things I want to go over with you.
Amy said that you did photos.
We did. So Amy and I went out about a month ago. Sure. Joe, you want to come up or you want to?
Sure.
We went out in mid-December and took a lot of photographs. And I think I was taking the pictures and she was noting where we were. And she's made a log of where all those photograph locations are. That's
So
my-
this is off, can you explain where the property is?
So it's off Nagog Hill Road,
Yeah.
basically at the bottom of the first hill, off to the left. And,
So it's vacant land,
excuse me?
so it's vacant land as you go from.
Yeah, there's one new house that's going deep in, that's gonna be the house that Joe lives in. And so, but there are 7 vernal pools on this property. So through, as part of the natural heritage process, to get the permit to put a house in, Joe's agreed to put a conservation restriction on the vast majority of the property. So we're in the process, and when we've met with you before, it was several months ago, But I'm in the process of editing it between the three people who have to sign off. You have to sign off, and Natural Heritage has to sign off, and the Division of Conservation Services has to sign off. So we started with Natural Heritage because we need to make sure that they are satisfied with the protections that are being put into the conservation restriction. And I've been working with Amy as well, and I'm now engaged with the Division of Conservation Services. And I would say we're like 98, 99% there. There's some details that don't necessarily relate to this property. It just has to do with conservation restrictions in general that we need to finish nailing down. But if I can find my little checklist here, I'll go over the things that I wanted to bring you up to date on. Where did it go? There it is. So one of the things that came out in my discussions with Miss Deanne and the engineers is there's a cart path that goes around the property, and we were originally planning to keep that cart path out of the conservation restriction. It seems to make sense that instead we will include it in the conservation restriction, adding a bit over 2 more acres to the land that will be permanently protected, and we will just have to work in the allowed uses. So, for example, Joe he's built that path up to support motorized recreational vehicles. So we'll have some language in the conservation restriction that says, well, even though this path is in the CR and in general prohibits motorized vehicles on the access path that's shown on the plan, you'll be able to use them there. Another thing is we were thinking that we would be pinning the center pin of this path so we could locate it on the plan. I was talking to the engineer and he says that would take a lot of pins, and it would probably make the path legally wider. Otherwise they would have to put in 1,000, he said 1,000 pins. What occurred to me is that instead we can build on this baseline documentation report, which is what all these photographs that Amy and I took for, is to document the condition of the property today, so that 5 years, 50 years, 500 years from now, you can look back and say, what has changed and is it appropriate under the conservation restriction? Perhaps someone like Dan Bullion or someone else who has a good GPS device could go out and just take GPS coordinates for this path, and we could work that into the baseline documentation report. And I think that would be sufficient for your purposes in Natural Heritage to know this is where the path is supposed to be. If it goes way over there, you'll be able to figure out that it's not where it's supposed to be anymore. I think those are the primary things that I wanted to go over with you. I see some new faces here. Questions that you might have about what this
Where's
is.
the structure on this? I couldn't find it.
The
Where's the house?
The house is up in the northeast corner, and it's a roughly 5 acre area that is not subject to the conservation restriction. The house is under construction.
And it looked like, so I looked at the markup version with Miss Deanne's comments. It
Mhm.
looked like you and she went through the vernal pool buffer areas.
But yeah, what about the
I'm just asking about,
Mhm.
although I guess if that's part of the conservation restriction. Let me
Correct.
see if I can find it and I can.
we had some discussion about what would be appropriate
Yeah.
and what the
There was a big
the
discussion
setbacks,
last time you were here.
right, what the
So it was-
setbacks would be, and
Yeah.
I've given in to her, and it's a 100-foot setback. Yeah.
And what do you need from us at this time?
I think I need a little bit, I need some direction, because I'm actually hoping that I'll be here at your next meeting on February 11th, asking you to approve. And that, so by that point, I will have something that I think meets what I hear from the commission, meets what Ms. Deanne says she wants in it from Natural Heritage's perspective, and meets what John and the Secretary's Office of Environmental Affairs says that they want to see in this. I think Ms. Deanne is pleased with where it is. I'm basically checking in on a couple of things to make sure that we are on the same page. And then most of the details I need to work out with DCS. I think are not things that affect the environmental quality. It has to do with enforcement and how to word things. So I expect that he and I will be able to reach agreement on that.
This abuts the town conservation land?
It does.
You said this is gonna be a dirt bike track?
There's already a path there.
You said for off-road vehicle use?
Correct. That's what it's used for now.
That was the whole reason they included the road, right? You added the road.
Right, so the road
You
was,
were originally going to keep the road.
keep the road out of the conservation restriction.
So, but by adding the road, you kept the use of motorized vehicles.
Right, so now that it's in the CR, I need to say there's an exception
Yeah.
that on that path, motorized recreational vehicles will be allowed.
And Natural Heritage agreed with that was okay.
I expect that they will because they were okay with the CR. The only thing that they asked when it was not in the CR was that nothing be parked on it. So if we're including it in the CR and vehicles will be allowed on that path under the conservation restriction, I expect they'll be okay. I've already communicated with Ms. Deanne that we'll be including it in the actual conservation restriction area. So from their perspective, we're not really changing it, except that they have a different review process for things that come in under a conservation restriction, asking permission, as opposed to asking for regulatory review on something that's not subject to a restriction that they have a role in.
And the motorized use of the cart path, the basis for that is that ADA and access to the property,
Exactly.
right?
Correct.
Right.
There's no actual driveway?
No, it's an improved dirt road. It's unpaved.
I had a question on, and I'm looking at the marked up version, so I
Mhm.
might not be at the right spot. There's a prohibited acts and uses.
Mhm.
So number 7 under that, subdivision or conveyance of a part or portion of the premises alone, or division or subdivision of the premises as compared to conveyance of the premises in its entirety, which shall be permitted.
Right.
And no portion may be used towards building or development requirements on any other property. And then it says specifically exempting the properties described in the deed recorded at book 68124, page 184. So I'm wondering if we could maybe just get a summary of what that's
I
referring
sure can.
to.
So
That
the
would be
deed,
helpful.
the deed that it's referring to is actually the deed into Joe.
For
the entire property. Okay?
Understood.
And then what it's saying
It's
is
not
it-
what I don't know what it means. I don't know it. I mean, I know it's referring to a deed and there's information in
right,
the
so
deed. I'm
it's just saying that all the land that's included in the deed into Joe is subject to that.
Yep.
Here towards the beginning, you can see there's a, you call it a disturbance area B.
Yep.
That won't be subject to the conservation restriction. Joe and his parents want to reserve the potential for building a house there.
Oh, for the caretaker lot?
Exactly.
Is that,
Right,
okay, I saw
and
that.
what that is saying is, this is 40,000 square feet approximately. We don't know at the time that they go to build the house, what zoning will require for an area requirement, for Board of Health, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
So if they need to use some of the CR land just to meet dimensional requirements, they can do
Oh, I
a
see.
subdivision to use some of that land and attach it to this disturbance. But it can only be one subdivision, and it can only be to support a house in that area.
Okay, so for example, if the septic requirement said you needed 50,000 square feet, you would subdivide another 10,000 square feet. And amend
Exactly.
it and
If you
get
need a
your-
certain distance to a setback to where the leaching field goes, that kind of thing, that they would be able to make the lots, it fits all of those requirements.
Okay.
But it can only be used to support a house there. It can't be used to support a house on an abutting property or elsewhere on Joe's
Elsewhere.
property.
Okay.
That's what all the little nuances are about.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Makes sense.
All right.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay.
So I think the board will read this a bit more in between now and our next meeting, and if we have any input, we can provide it to Amy. And
So what I would suggest, I'm actually hopeful, crossing my fingers all over the place here, that I'll be able to come back to your February 11th meeting with something that I can say, the state has signed off, Natural Heritage has signed off, I think it meets what I've been hearing from the commission, and be asking for your approval. What'll happen in the meantime is I'll be sending to Amy the CR showing where we think it should land, giving you the chance to weigh in and make comments on it, so that when I show up on the 11th, if I can show up on the 11th, there'll be no surprises, there'll be no discussion, you'll know what you'll have had chance to think it through without having to think on the spot, and hopefully there'll be a good temperature to approving the CR at that meeting. That's the hope.
That sounds reasonable.
Excellent.
I mean, my impression is the only part in our jurisdiction is this, right? This was the natural heritage property over here, but this is the
So
wetland.
lots and lots of the
There's vernal
properties,
pools over there.
yeah, there's lots and lots of the property that's in your jurisdiction.
But they aren't noted on this though, right?
They are on other plans. This plan, and it's labeled the disturbance plan for the natural heritage permitting. I'll probably have an almost identical plan notated differently. For example, this shows the conservation restriction area as being 29.5 acres, and the access easement is 2.1 acres. It's now going to say that the conservation restriction is 31.68 acres or something like that, because we'll be adding the access area to it. So there's some cleanup that has to be done here by the surveyor. But it's going to look basically like this. And the reason to keep the other details that are available on some of the other plans is you want it to just be nice and clean to be able to see jurisdictionally what is in the CR and what is not. There'll be other plans in your permitting file and Natural Heritage permitting file that'll show all the details about the vernal pools. And that's a good place for them. But by and large, you want a nice clean plan attached to the CR. That makes it easy when you're walking out of the field to say, I know where I am, and we're either in the area or we're not in the area. And that makes life less complicated for everybody.
So we already agreed with your delineation, correct?
Yes.
So that's not in dispute, it's just,
Mhm.
we're just looking at whether the CR
Yeah.
is sufficient. for
Correct.
that.
That's right.
I guess I'm not sure, I'm 100% convinced that we don't want to show where the vernal pools are. I definitely get that we don't want to make it, and I did see the, you know.
You've
I'm
seen the other
familiar
plan
with
that has
other-
all the
yep.
details?
Oh, yeah, and those are, and I agree, those are very busy, so
Mm-hmm.
but I guess I'm not convinced, because part of the basis for the CR is the vernal pools. So I feel as though they should be represented somehow, even if it's not, you know, a full polygon of them, but just, you know, so that if somebody doesn't have Amy's files and didn't bother to go do that, and they're in the, you know, they're, you know, property changes hands, family members
Sure.
die, I'm in possession of this, oh, it's a conservation restriction, but I don't really know why, all I have is this, and then we're in a situation where someone's doing what they shouldn't.
I think what I'll suggest I'll do is I'll ask the engineer, the surveyor to prepare it both ways.
Oh.
I can bring it to
If
next
it's-
meeting, you can say, we'll approve it if you attach this one, if it looks too
Yeah,
messy,
sure.
we'll approve it if you include that
Yeah.
one. We can do it that way.
And I appreciate we don't want it too messy, because it's hard to use if
Yeah.
there's too much on it, but I am not convinced that we don't need the location of the
Okay.
vernal pools, which is the basis for the restriction.
Yeah,
And then-
Yeah,
especially
the
with
plans get
restriction
dirty,
first,
messy,
then.
very, very fast.
Yeah.
And there's actually another version that even has more detail on
Yeah,
it
no,
than this.
I recall
Yeah.
looking through those things.
Yeah, we don't need all the contour
Like the
lines,
topos,
et cetera.
right?
Yeah.
But maybe just showing the vernal pools
Just
and maybe 100
symbol
feet
or
out from them,
polygon,
those two
yeah.
lines, something like that.
Something like
We'll see,
that.
I'll have them put something together and see if we can, I hear
I
where
mean,
you're
this would
coming
have to
from.
probably be bigger, like 11 by 17 or something, but, and then my other suggestion, just through experience, if you're gonna try to GPS
Mm-hmm,
the cart path, make sure you have high-powered GPS and you're using it in the morning, because the tree canopy, well, the angle, so the satellite configuration will actually, so your GPS doesn't work as well in the afternoon.
I
like
wasn't aware.
survey
I
grade.
didn't know
Yeah,
that.
so talk to your
Okay.
surveyor, there
Okay.
are limitations, and you wanna get an accurate.
One of the fun things with this property, that you may have heard that there's a stone pile that I believe is a Native American stone pile. It's within the property, and it's gonna be protected by the CR. And Dan Bullion sent me GPS coordinates for the stone pile. So I went out there with my phone, And there it was. I was
Sometimes
right
you
on
get
top.
lucky.
It was like, well, there it is.
Yeah,
Clear, it was not clear as could be 100 feet away, but
yeah. Sometimes it works.
It was
sometimes
there.
it does not.
so,
Yeah.
okay. Any other thoughts, suggestions,
So are we
requests?
going to have the CR designated in the field by any type of signage, or we don't have to because it's wholly owned by
Oh,
one
that's a
person?
good question.
So there'll be no public access to the property. Usually if you have a sign, you're basically inviting the public in, and that's.
Well, it wasn't more to invite them, it's
Mhm.
more just to designate boundary.
So the
Separate the boundary of the CR from the property owner.
Got it. So fortunately, the bounds are already there, because almost the entire boundary of the CR are stone walls. And then the disturbance area that's around his house has all been very well demarcated with concrete bounds. Amy and I went and found each one of these bounds, noted where they were, took pictures of them. So it's really clear what's in and what's out, which I love, both for the landowner and for the grantee, because you don't want to have fights over whether something is in or out. So it's really nicely marked. I got to smile. Amy and I were smiling. This is the way it should be. Joe's team has done a really good job out there. Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks
Cross
for
my
coming in.
fingers. We'll see you at your next meeting. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Have a great night. All right. We have an 8:30 continued public hearing. Notice of intent, 93 Mattawanakee Trail, DEP file number 204-876 for expansion of deck.
Okay, so last time I was here, thanks for seeing me. I'm Lisa DiMarino. I'm Susan Paul's daughter. And what I did was I did a few things. There were lots of questions about measurements. I highlighted all the various measurements here. I've got two different plans with the two different options as requested. I also went around the property because I wasn't sure if everyone here would have a chance to actually go out there and look at it. I took pictures of all around with tape measures. So there couldn't be any sort of potential questions with regards to what she's requesting. This is the letter that we have. Sorry. And feel free to take a look. I've put together all of the various pictures of the property itself. So if anyone is interested, you're more than welcome to take a look. This is the main house here. I tried to just take a few highlights. So this was the requested plan that has the additional deck here. It shows about 8 feet from the water is what would be left after the additional, I think it's on the document. We're asking for a current distance from the deck to the water is 18.72 right now, and then we're projecting the distance after the addition to be 8.12, and it's listed as such here. And furthermore, be looking to potentially move. There's hostas here now, so if you look at the property, like there's some hostas in here, and they would be moved to the new section of free space. In addition to any native pollinators, sorry if I'm saying it incorrectly, and she's absolutely willing to work with you and get all of the plantings approved prior to planting, and unfortunately, I think we were talking about potentially having an alternative, which we have over here, of moving the deck for the second plan.
Yeah.
And what you'll see in the pictures is that there's a hill and there's a septic at the top of the hill. And furthermore, I'll show you one in a second or two. If you were to put the deck as requested on the side, you'll see it's keep going. Right. Sorry, it's in here. So you can see this is part, I think this is it. Sorry, bear with me a minute. Let me find it. Yes, so this is the hill. So you can see here, oh, I apologize.
No worries.
So here's the beach. So you lose access to the beach by putting the deck there. So you can see there's a hill here. So here's the house on the side, and this is where the deck would be on the proposed plan over here. That was requested as the alternative. But if you were to do that, you'd be cutting into the hill with the septic at the top. And then you would also lose access to the beach as well, to move the deck in and out. So the deck in and out is what's right here. So you'd lose access to this. And then the other option was to go the other direction, but you can see there's a wall there. So unfortunately, that is why there really isn't any other options besides what she was hoping to do, which is all staked out in here in the pictures with all the measurements. So, and the wall is just a foot wide.
How far is the preferred alternative from the septic? I mean,
Oh, it's way at the
Is
top
it-
of the hill.
Okay.
It's way at the top
So
of
it's
the
not
hill.
in the
It's
leach
not,
field or
no,
anything?
no,
Okay.
no.
Do you know
Can
if
you
they?
point it out where it is?
The septic,
Yeah.
it's sure. It's right about here. So here's the septic, and then here is the, this would be the alternative, but it's all a hill.
I mean, personally, I cringe at having a deck only 8 feet away from the edge of the.
Yeah.
It follows an existing, what does it follow?
Yes, there is an existing deck there right now that's only 5 feet, so you'll see that. So here's the front of the main house, and then you'll
Yeah.
see this is the small itty bitty deck that's here right now. That's
Yeah.
the 5-foot deck, so you can see you
Yeah.
can't put a table on it, and that's why she's
And
requesting.
then it follows down this way
Yes.
towards
This
the
guy, right?
lake, right?
Yeah,
like that?
I'm looking at it upside down. I apologize.
So,
Yes, so over here there's like a little patio.
Yeah, right there.
So you're
Yeah.
already-
Like right here.
Yep.
And the dog.
Yeah, so here's the small deck. Here's the footings, because there were questions about footings. And I don't know if I got a picture. I think this is right where it's going out to the water for the deck. And you can see right here, and here's the patio. So that's what's over here, patio. And then here's the small little deck for when it's seasonal, it goes out into the water.
So the deck's sitting on pilings.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and she's requesting to do the same pilings that are in place today. No pressure treated wood. They were saying 4 foot down with the cement.
Sonotubes.
Correct. Mhm.
So it would only be 8 feet of buffer,
Mhm.
planted buffer.
Planted buffer, or grass, whichever.
Well, it can't be grass, because I thought the
No.
plantings were in
She's-
compensation for.
She's requesting plantings.
Can't be grass.
It can't be
Yeah.
grass.
Okay.
Yeah, so
She's-
so grass for us is probably the least other than
Least desirable.
like
Oh.
asphalt
yeah.
is the least
Oh.
is the least desirable
Yeah.
planting because you have to mow it, and so then it impacts water quality through the fertilizers or
True.
mowing and some monoculture, that type of thing. So
Like
so
stay
the
away
benefit
from
the
that.
benefit to the project would actually be
More
the plantings.
Along the lake edge.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. We don't look favorably on that, but it's existing. So,
Mhm.
so the benefit of the project would be to, pull the grass back and not have grass right at the lake's edge.
Mhm.
8 feet to the water is super close.
Yeah, super close.
It's,
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, personally,
How big is the,
need at least.
in the existing,
Yeah, so
how much is the expansion?
it's going, there's a 5-foot deck right here that you
Yeah,
could see,
right,
and it'd
the
be
5-foot
extending out
deck.
another, about 10 feet.
Off the,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, that's right.
Can it be any narrower than a 10-foot increase? Or is that maybe something you would have to ask?
I can get her on the phone, but if you wanted to go with, instead of 10, go with 8, I would think she probably would be able to fit a table on that, which is what the intent is, to actually make it entertainable. Because right now it's really cramped.
Sure.
So that's what she's trying to accomplish. So if it
Yeah,
was
the
like a
intent.
foot or two,
Yeah.
and that's what's concerning, I'm pretty sure she would compromise. If you'd like, I will get her on the phone.
I mean, that looks like it goes beyond where the existing patio is, at least that's what this
Yeah.
plan indicates.
Yes,
If
so
it's
you can
inaccurate.
see right here, this is where the patio ends, and then here's where the deck would abut. So you can see it's going to here. So it is a little bit further out, that's correct.
So how,
Oops, sorry.
how far does the patio go out? Like, could you just align it with the edge of the existing
That's the
patio?
one measurement I didn't take. It looks like it's about 4 feet, though.
Now,
Yep.
isn't there any way that, I mean, you already have 5 feet.
Correct.
If you went another 4 feet, that would be 9 feet. If you braced this so you don't have to have these poles here, then maybe you could have an open deck, including the 5 feet you already have, to the edge of the next patio, and you'd be able to put a.
Oh, so the
Instead of having the
poles,
poles.
the poles are actually, this is holding
they're
up.
holding a deck.
Yeah, they're holding up, this is a porch
Yeah.
up here,
Second floor.
and so here's the deck right here.
Yeah, it's not
It's
happening.
not, it's right in front of it.
Oh, the deck is already in
Yeah,
front of it.
yes,
So you have
yes.
4 feet of deck in front already.
Yes, and she's
So-
trying to allow it to put a table there. That's what she's looking to do.
How much do you need to have a patio?
I mean, if, I'll get her on the phone and ask her what her minimum would be, if that would be helpful. Yeah? Okay. I'll be right back.
So while the applicant is stepping out for just a second, I just want to see if we can knock a couple of administrative items off of our agenda, just so we don't have a lot at the very end of the meeting.
Hi. So, there
Um, I don't believe there are any updates on the Mill Pond dredging project update.
Mill Pond dredging, I attended a meeting with Amy a week ago at the water department. And the Corps of Engineers was there,
Oh, yeah.
along with us. And,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, you ready? I'm gonna put you on speaker, okay?
We'll jump back into our
right.
public hearing.
All right, you're on speaker with the group.
Okay.
Hi. Hi.
hi again.
So, Mom, I think there, I know the concern is to add a table and do entertaining. The request is a 10-foot addition on top of the 5 feet that's already there. What would be the minimum to allow you to do the entertaining and extend?
All right. Let me just think about this, because that's where the table has to go, is over there.
Right.
So,
7 feet instead of the
Yeah.
10?
Instead of 10, yeah.
So that would leave like 11 feet to the water instead of the 8.
Yeah, that would be better. Planted strip of at least 10 feet is what we would, at least I would feel is absolutely necessary. 8 feet is,
Okay.
8 feet is too small, a buffer.
Okay. Okay.
So 7 feet addition.
Yes, would you be willing to work with that?
Yes.
Great.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thanks a lot, everyone. Thanks, Liz.
So you can come
Yes.
in with a modified plan?
If you'd like.
next time?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I
we
can,
did.
you can put me on the docket next time and we'll get it done.
All right.
All
Excellent.
right.
Okay.
All right, so we'll put you
Are
on
you
our.
gonna have a planting plan as well?
If
That
you'd
would-
like, you'd like a planting
Yes,
plan as
okay.
well?
And you
Can
can talk
do.
to Amy about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, Amy will give you
Yeah,
guidance.
talk to Amy.
7
Yes.
plants
That-
Okay.
recommend.
Okay.
Yeah, and you don't have to necessarily pay top dollar.
Oh, no, I mean,
For
we're
them,
willing
like-
to do whatever's necessary, so, I'll talk to her about a
There are
planting plan.
places to buy plants that are less expensive.
I mean,
than,
less expensive than, okay. But,
Other
is there,
places.
there's a standard for the planting plan, and Amy would have what that might be?
Amy will work with you on
Thank
that.
you.
Yeah, she
Okay.
can provide you with
To make it optimum,
information.
and
Yeah.
it would be optimum also
Yeah.
kind of have a swale, almost like a rain garden, but instead of having the water sheet directly into the lake
Okay.
or pond.
Gotcha.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, to slow the water down.
Stormwater
Right,
control.
Yeah.
to kind of make it, I just think I get what you're trying to get.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, I'll be back next month.
All right.
Thanks.
Oh, not next month, February 11th.
February 11th.
Oh,
very
Then it's next month.
Have a great.
That's
Oh, it
next
is
month.
next month. Sorry, I don't know what day it is.
Running the meeting.
Okay.
Tell him to.
So our next, our 8:40.
He's gonna give
I'm
up.
happy it's
You're
not-
gonna,
I know,
he's
I
gonna
was
hand
gonna
it
say,
to you.
better
You
watch
better be
my mouth.
careful.
I know,
Totally
I
think we're
know.
doing an excellent job.
Excellent job.
So our 8:45 p.m. continued public hearing is notice of intent, 20 Westchester Drive, DEP file number 204-875 for installation of a septic system upgrade to replace failed system. Is there anybody here to speak to that tonight?
I think Amy said they were not, let me see. Oops, no, that's not it. I feel like she said they weren't coming in.
20 Westchester.
Board of Health approved with no substantive changes from what you've seen, and number of bedrooms are deed restricted.
Just needs closing and voting for order conditions.
Yeah, no one will be in.
Okay.
Um,
Does anybody have any comments on the project from our last hearing?
I mean, I think we requested that it be deed restricted, given the tiny, tiny lot size and the proximity to the wetlands and the impact of the septic leachate on groundwater in direct vicinity of the wetlands. And so it sounds like if Board of Health deed restricted it, like we discussed and like we requested, I'm okay issuing the order, conditioned on that actually really happened. And
Okay.
those are my thoughts.
Or you wanna make a motion?
Is there any public comment on this hearing before we close it out? No? All right. Whoop. My phone's talking to me. This is just going downhill. So would somebody like to make a motion to close the public hearing and issue?
I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions for 20 Westchester Drive, Mass DEP file number 204-875, conditioned on the confirmation that the deed restriction happened, because we're operating on, kind of via email notes. I just want to make sure that
Okay, I'll second that.
that really happened.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, excellent. So
Okay, do we have that?
yeah, we have the sheet to sign in the
Sign.
red folder over here. Oh, thanks. All right, so we have a few minutes before our next public hearing. So I'd like to.
No pond.
Yes, I'd like to just knock a couple of administrative discussion items off of our agenda very quickly, just so we have time for all of them. Let's see, we have about 10 minutes. So we're discussing the Mill Pond dredging project. That's
Yeah.
it?
So I met with Corps of Engineers and Amy. So it was basically the Conservation
you.
Commission and Corps of Engineers. And
Is Corey there?
yes, and the town agent from the water department. So we had it was a nice discussion. It was a continued discussion of how they would put this dredge spoil onto what we would consider to be a wetland, but it would be to improve the wetland by adding fill material. It's a technique that's just starting to be used. So obviously it's going to take a lot of monitoring, and I'm not sure how many other sites in the state have actually had this type of treatment happen. So it just basically it was just continuing discussion. No decisions have been made. It's just more information coming our way.
Excellent.
And yeah, it's interesting, but it is going to take it's going to take some monitoring and a lot of other stuff, because it is placement of fill on wetlands.
Okay.
And I think I had heard a little bit about it as far as we have it, that Mill Pond wetland area is basically choked with Phragmites,
Yeah.
which is a monoculture, an incredibly invasive species. And it's actually, if you look at subsequent years, start historically and look at subsequent years aerial photographs, you notice the waterway gets narrower and narrower and chokes it in. And so I had seen information about another project that so it's a restoration method that chokes out the Phragmites, and it just raises the elevation slightly, so it's still a wetland, but it can be restored as a forested wetland. And so it's actually plant species that have any chance at all to compete with the frag. And so that was what I had heard about.
So the key is obviously
Like a restoration.
the level.
Yeah, right.
And then we had also discussed potentially trying to add as many other habitats as they possibly could.
Habitat types?
Yeah, maybe bring in some, make some sand mounds for turtles to nest on.
Oh, cool.
That might be strategically located, and also some open water areas. So, I mean, we should really, I think, take advantage of this and create more than just placement of the fill material.
Yeah, it's
Create a
an
variety of
opportunity
habitats.
it's an opportunity to
Yeah.
control an invasive
Yeah.
and create more habitat, because right
Right.
now, so from the other meeting, the first meeting that we had, which was many months ago, that and then there was a site walk that Carl and I and a whole bunch, Anthony, with the police, like a whole bunch of people were there in addition to the Corps of Engineers. And it's noticeable that there's basically the Neff and town-owned land.
Yeah.
It's just this one finger, and it's the only upland habitat available that doesn't have to cross a railroad or a major 495 and Taylor Street. And then there's the Cardillo operation. It's like the only upland area left. And so that was striking, I think, when we walked out.
Yeah, so there was an
Months ago.
update on that, is that Neff is out of it now.
Okay.
Not to say that land couldn't be transferred to the Conservation Commission or somebody else.
Sure.
But they're not going to have an agreement with, what's the name of the group that's?
Oh, for development of that land?
Yes, to add,
Yep. Okay.
as a place to placement of fill material and make it part of the operation.
Right.
So that's,
It's valuable habitat.
so that's off the table.
Okay.
So that's good, I think that's good,
Yeah, that's,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So that-
I would hate to lose
So
that
now
land
it's
to
really
development,
just,
so.
so now it's just between, the Corps of Engineers, the town water department, and us. So it's-
Okay,
Yeah.
Excellent.
thank you.
All right, it is 8:55. We still have 5 more minutes before we can start our next public hearing. I would love to knock the Cloverdale parking lot off our agenda. I don't want to keep you here all night.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't see Rick Finley or Jim O'Neill in the room, but if you had any input that you wanted to share on the projects?
Yes, I appreciate that. Rody out of the 5 Oak Farm Road. First question I had was, has Mass DOT approved the curb cut yet?
Not that I know
Not that I
seen
know
anything.
of.
All right, well, I guess what I'm kind of not understanding is we keep going forward with this project, and if we don't have that approved, we have no access to this property. So it's fiscally irresponsible with taxpayers' funds. And it just, and I've said this last year, it seems like this project keeps going forward, let's build it and they will come. And this continues again. Last year, the commission had stated that they were gonna be surveying the properties there, and that there would be boundaries and markers placed. And my concern is encroachment onto our property, and we've had that in the past. And as far as any activities or work that's going on, any encroachments that there, any update as far as the survey?
I remember
Unfortunately-
hearing about the survey.
The survey?
Yeah, so Amy mentioned that at one point. I did a site walk on the property adjacent to yours in the, I think it was parcel 5A. So I do recall we got an update from Amy about that the surveyors, basically wasn't enough money to do the full survey, and so we would have to, what we were hoping and what we had discussed with your wife on the site visit was, while the surveyors are out here, we'll try to have them also do, some of this other stuff too. And so when you spend public funds, you have a designated amount. Unfortunately, the survey would have been above that designated amount, and so that's the information I have right now. But that's.
Well, the concern is that it seems that we're spending money freely on this project, and one that's very important that we brought up before, and what I'm hearing is that we don't have the money for it. But yet, construction
No,
materials have already been spent.
there was designated money. There's designated money for the survey. To do additional survey that wasn't already in the scope in the first place, you would need to go back to get more money. And so they did the survey that they were able to do. It's not an on-the-spot decision. That's all I'm
What I'm
trying to say.
referring to is that there seems to be things going forward with this project that, as money's been spent, that wasn't allocated before.
It's grant
So-
money?
Well, no, are you saying that the survey was gonna be paid for by the grant funds?
No, the survey was paid for by the town, is my understanding.
Okay, was that approved by the town?
Yep.
Okay, so there was an amount that was submitted to the town that they reviewed and was approved.
I know there was money approved for the survey. I'm not prepared to dig into the
Okay.
details because I don't work here full-time. I'm trying to provide helpful information in the absence of people, and, but I don't want to overspeak.
Okay.
So I've given you the information I have. I don't know the answers exactly or the exact details. What I do know is a survey was scoped, and in order to do the additional work that we were really hoping to be able to do within the same scope was not possible. That's what I know. Amy would have more information, and I hear what you're saying. I abut town land too, and so I'm always looking like, oh, what are they doing now? Like, what is this? So I get it. I truly do, and I appreciate your concerns. We can certainly pass on your encroachment concerns, to Amy. We will keep it in mind as well. So is your concern do you have, you must have bounds at your property or no? You're not sure?
We didn't see them.
Okay.
But it's just, our concern, as I mentioned before, the encroachment at some point. We've already had
Yep.
that happen already.
Okay.
That people have encroached onto our property, and that was even for the work that was being done. And so there's concern not only for, as far as the public, but also being the work that's being done. So it's just, it was represented last year by the commission that it would be done.
So the work that's being done is encroaching on your property right now?
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying
Oh,
is
okay.
that
I'm just trying to clarify.
Yeah, at least, well, I'm not sure, to be honest with you, because of the fact that there's no markers that are there. I can't verify that there is or there isn't.
Okay. I'm not sure we're prepared to be able to. I don't know if that's something we can answer without a map and more information.
And just one quick mention, there's still piles that are there, the thrash that still hasn't been cleared up. There's still trash again, we've walked the property. And the last question I have is that, as it was directed by the Board of Selectmen, has there been communication with the building department on construction control?
For the decks, or not the decks, the boardwalks. Sorry, I'm using the wrong. As far as I know,
I have no idea.
honestly I have no
We're
personal
not
idea.
really- Yeah. That's usually done on like the day-to-day town staff. I don't think any of us would have that information.
Okay. Well, just to remind, the Board of Selectmen had indicated last year, before any construction whatsoever was to start, there was supposed to be a public hearing with public input.
And just so you know, it's not, the construction is, they're laying on top of the ground, there's no digging or anything that happens with these boardwalks. It's all on the surface.
The direction of the Board of Selectmen last summer was there was to be no construction of any type or any sort until there was a public hearing. And there's been no public hearing. So at this point,
Well, these are public hearings, and it was presented to us it's a public hearing.
there has been no official public hearing on this as far as the boardwalk and the construction subsequent to the Board of Selectmen indicating that they wanted it done before any work was to be done.
They has probably made the assumption that coming before this board was their public hearing.
Well, there was a public hearing held under the Wetlands Protection Act to construct the boardwalk. I can't remember what month that was. Maybe 4 or 5 months ago.
I'd be guessing. I really
time
don't
has
know.
flown by
I
so
really think we
quickly.
should not
But
speculate unless we're sure.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I looked through all the agendas, and there's been no public hearing on this subsequent to the Board of Selectmen's meeting. So at this
Why would the
point,
Board of
as far as the work that's being
Selectmen
done,
have
and has
a
been
public
done,
Why
is in
would the Board of
contravention to
Selectmen
what
have
the
a
Board of
public
Selectmen had
hearing?
indicated.
We'll bring it up to Amy.
they wouldn't, but so we'll have to follow up with our.
I don't know. I would have
coordinator.
to. I would have to. Look. I unfortunately don't have that in front of me, so I would have to.
I wish I had
Let me
this
just ask the
information.
commission, given that it's in the Board of Selectmen's minutes, and there's been no public hearing in regards to it, that there be no further action in regards to the project until that's been resolved, until there's been a public hearing.
Well, we can't speak to that until Amy comes back, because she tracks the scheduling.
Okay, you are the commission, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
She keeps our records. She keeps track of that because we're not here on the day to day. You know,
And often our meetings are scheduled at the same time as the Board of Selectmen, so she keeps track of what they're doing for us.
Well, there's been no further representation to the Board of Selectmen subsequent to that meeting as they had requested.
We'll certainly
have
look
to
into
We'll
this.
follow up.
All right. Any other questions? All right. So I will open up our 9 o'clock continued public hearing. Notice of intent, 10 Fort Pond. After the fact application for a gazebo on a gravel pad. Good evening.
Set up over here.
You can lay it on the table if you want.
Watch it easier.
Yeah, it's.
My name is Paul Kirchner from Samsky McNary, representing the applicant. This is 10 Fort Pond Road. Danny Gammon from our office, I believe, was here 3 weeks ago. And you asked for some changes made. Of course, this gazebo is existing as well as the gravel pad. So since you last saw this plan, we've added some pavers along the driveway here. It is my understanding that that was at the request of the commission. Some of those pavers are within the 50-foot no disturb, but that was unavoidable, of course, since the drive is within the 50-foot no disturb. Additionally, we have proposed a gravel walkway from the driveway to the gravel pad around the gazebo for access. And we have also proposed an infiltrating rain garden to slow some of the runoff coming down the hill here. So I believe it's about 9 inches deep. So there won't be much of a pond there, but it will slow the runoff and catch some of the debris flowing down the hill. Other than that, the plan remains the same. Are there any questions?
Oh, we added some plantings, I think?
Yes, within
Proposed.
within the rain garden, there are some plantings, as is typical.
Amy sent a link to some rain gardens.
rain garden,
This is
okay.
kind of small, but it looked pretty cool. So we just looked at, what are existing native and can live there that don't need to be watered because there is no irrigation.
Okay, that's great.
Where's the 100-foot buffer?
The larger does.
Okay.
So this is entirely within the buffer zone.
Yep. No, I was definitely aware of that. I was just trying to figure out how much more space. Okay.
Does anybody have any concerns, comments, questions?
Are there plans to do more upslope out of the 100-foot?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. Not
Okay.
What did you say the path was going to be made of? Is it pavers, you said?
It's just
It's
gravel.
gravel.
Oh, gravel.
Just like the pad around the gazebo.
Okay.
But basically, it's to direct people to the door.
Right, so you're
of the
not
gazebo,
disturbing
so you're
anything
not-
other than that 2-foot wide
Right.
path up and down. Yeah.
I guess I would ask too, in that spirit, the reason we're here and the reason the gazebo was put where it was, I believe you said it was because you didn't want to clear a whole bunch of trees to do it.
There was an existing
And-
structure there. So.
Right, and, but technically you could have done this 100 feet outside and we would, unless you created impacts, we wouldn't have anything to say. And
Yeah, although there were discussions, I don't think you were here for that meeting, about.
Yeah, I missed
could we
last
put
meeting,
even
but I went
a
to-
driveway and
I went on
excavate
site
here.
with
and
you, yeah.
The problem is, even when you get here,
Sorry.
there are so many,
It's a
the whole
steep
area,
slope.
and it's boulders.
Yep.
So,
Okay. I'm just
you could-
concerned that you're gonna, start building up the slope and in
No,
the spirit of.
this is literally just, all this was in the summer, when the sun goes down. I mean, there's just tons of mosquitoes, and we gotta go home, so.
Yeah.
That's
No,
what it is.
I'm familiar with them. Some,
Yeah, it gets pretty
the
bad.
voracious mosquitoes.
I don't get them out there, I go after my wife. But-
Oh, okay. That was my only concern was, building out and out and out and
No,
creating it,
just-
because that
The-
would be hard to control.
The pad was just what they required for the
Yep.
gazebo and the drainage. and-
Yeah.
Right.
No, yeah.
They would still need to provide access if they were to build it further
Yep.
upslope. So.
Yeah, and we didn't look at any other area to begin with, except the one that already existed, so.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to issue an order of conditions for 10 Fort Pond. SDP number 204877, application for gazebo on a gravel.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Before we close and vote, does anybody from the audience have anything they want to ask? Any comments, questions? All right. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Could somebody fish the paper out of that red? Oh, you guys are quick.
Aaron's on it.
All right, so we still have 5 minutes before our next
Look at us.
hearing. We're moving right along.
I'm gonna keep him. I'm gonna fire Jim.
All right, so why don't we knock a couple more administrative discussion items off our list. We did the Clover deal. Request for certificate of compliance 204-270 18 Coburn Lane. I'm not sure if Amy.
I think she had something.
I personally haven't been on site, so I don't know
I guess he has nice colored plans.
if. Oh. Oh, yes.
Oh, are they in here?
Well,
No, that's it. I can't find that part in my minutes.
he's here.
Let's see.
Is Scott here? Scott Hayes here?
Oh, excellent. Come on in.
Yay,
Yeah.
alright, you have nice
China.
colored plans.
Oh, this is 11 Worcester. Okay, this isn't the right one.
I was working in those studios.
He's referring to the 18th.
Good evening. Hi.
Oh, it's not Worcester Road?
You can set that right on the table for us. Thanks.
All right.
Oh, this is Colburn
Oh,
Lane,
here we
18
go.
Colburn Lane?
Yes, this is 18 Coburn.
This is
Nope.
not
No,
18
this is,
Colburn
this
Lane.
is Worcester Road.
Oh, you guys are.
11 Worcester.
I'm doing the
Right.
administrative discussion
We have
for because we
4
still have a few
minutes.
more minutes before we can start our public hearing.
Okay.
Oh, I'm
You can
sorry.
Still, you can leave your map though. That's
Okay.
fine. But
Yeah, you can leave
Yeah,
that
we have
there. I'm
4
sorry.
minutes.
Very good.
I was wondering what was going on.
okay.
Sorry, I skipped ahead.
Oh, no problem.
So it sounds like it's a partial certificate of compliance for an old project. Amy saw the site and didn't see any issues. But I don't really know what the site is.
I haven't been on site.
Where is it?
18 Coburn
18
Lane.
Coburn. I think if nobody's here, I don't think it hurts to just push it to the next meeting so we can
I think so. Yeah.
just get a little
Where
more
is it on the
information.
agenda?
It's under the administrative
Administrative.
discussion. So we'll go ahead and table that until our
Yeah.
next meeting before we sign off. All right, we still have 3 more minutes before we
What
can
about
start.
the property donation? What's that about?
So let's talk about that. So we have property donation parcel U23-28-0. I have no idea where that is.
Yeah, I feel like we need to table that.
Let's
too.
table
There
that
isn't-
as
I mean,
well.
there are a couple of notes, but I think we need more information. if we're
Without
gonna
Amy here, it's hard
vote-
to.
vote
Yeah.
on something.
Hope Amy feels very loved. Really
I know.
falling apart about her.
Amy, we need you.
All right, so we'll table that. Wetland bylaw regulations, we should probably table that as well.
Yeah.
And let's see.
Did she circulate anything around? I didn't see anything for that.
I haven't seen
Okay.
any
I didn't see
updates
anything.
on
From
that.
the council.
It did, so
Yeah.
presumably that's an update. So
Yeah, from
okay. Just clarifying.
Yeah.
All right. There were a few things that were on Amy's desk. Let's see. We do have a hard copy of the 2016 Open Space and Recreation Plan. If anybody wants to have a look at it, it'll be in the office. So
Okay.
that's, as we mentioned,
2019?
it was finished in 2016 and
Oh.
just got approved. So.
Oh, got it. Okay.
So that'll be in the office if anybody wants to look at it, public included, so stop by. There's a conference on Tuesday, February 5th from 7 to 9 p.m. It's a conservation options and planning workshop for landowners. That'll be at the Sargent Memorial Library in Boxborough. I guess it addresses if somebody's interested in conserving their land, stuff like that. There's a flyer on it here that Amy had. And let's do a quick time check, 1 more minute. And that's about it.
She
So I
also
guess-
said that there was the plan for the center of town.
Uh,
Master plan. Thought she
Oh, I didn't see that.
Anyway.
Well, what would that have to do with us? Unless it extends down to the
I think
two
it was
brothers, or
Yeah, I think it was just a note of interest that we might want to take a look at it.
All right.
well, I guess we do have some potential wetland areas, depending how far it extends to.
Yeah.
All right, well, it is 9:15, so I guess we can go ahead and open our continued public hearing. Notice of intent, 11 Worcester Road, Mass DEP file number 204-8 blank. Demolition of existing dwelling and construction of new dwelling, septic system, driveway, and utilities. So you guys can come on up.
The DEP still behind on issuing numbers?
They must be.
I didn't check it today, but we
Yeah,
hadn't had
but
it.
you still have it, yeah.
Yeah,
They've
Friday.
been behind.
I
There are
know.
lots of
They're
EX6.
understaffed, I think. I have the green cards. Do I give those to you?
Yeah, if you could just
Yeah.
set them off to the side there, thanks.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Scott Hayes, Foresight Engineering. I'm here for 11 Worcester Road Trust and Metro West Company, who are proponents for this project. This is 11 Worcester Road. It's the site of an existing single-family house on the corner of Concord Drive and Worcester Road, which is just past the fork where Tehadawon and Harwood split, coming from Newtown. Concord Road's on the right, and then this kind of connects up to Colonial Drive and that neighborhood, just to get you kind of oriented. There's a locus on here as well, but so this is an area of smaller lots and homes, part of the lake. There's an existing house on the lot, which is shown here kind of in gray underneath what's proposed and existing, but there's an existing house right here and a garage here and a septic area in red here and here. The proposal is to raise the existing house and construct a new dwelling. We've been out to do test holes for septic system, and in this area here we tested, which is about as far away from the wetlands as we can get, while still being on the lot. The soils were actually pretty good there. Sandy till, water table was 4.5 feet, which is pretty good for the lake. I'm familiar you are with the area, but the area, so their houses are all here. There's an old stone wall that runs across the back, and behind that there's wetlands here. They pretty much run right behind Concord Drive and kind of run up Worcester Road and cross under via culvert a little further down the road here. So this is a bordering wetland that kind of drains to the Long Pond watershed, but it's pretty peripheral, far away. So we've got a wetland area. There's a small upland area here. Not that it's significant, but it was identified, so it was shown. The lot itself's about 36,000 square feet. I'd say there's about maybe 15,000 square feet of upland area that's adjacent to the road that's actually usable for the site. So it's an existing developed lot. We've got an erosion control line shown in brown here, and this area here along the back is the existing edge of lawn, and there are only two substantial trees on the lot. One is right along the erosion control line, which is proposed to remain. Another 24-inch maple by the corner, which also can remain. There's some minor grading to be done up there, but not substantial enough that it would destroy the tree, and it's a pretty nice tree. A little close to the house, for being a 24-inch maple. The canopy's going to extend out quite a ways, so it might need some pruning to accommodate the house, but it could remain. But those are the only two trees on the lot, and the rest of this is lawn right up to the edge of pavement of the two streets. So what we propose to do is raise the existing house and garage, construct a new septic system up as far out away from the wetlands as we can get it, which is about 75 feet off the wetlands, and construct a new dwelling in the same general vicinity as the existing dwelling. It's larger than what's there. It's within the 50-foot no disturb zone, which we'll get to. But given the pre-existing non-conforming nature of the lot, the house was built in the 40s. It predates the Wetlands Protection Act, certainly predates the Littleton Wetland Bylaw, and it's a redevelopment project of an existing single-family house. That said, also, the proposal doesn't require removal of any trees. The area is entirely within lawn, impervious, area associated with the house and the existing driveway. And we're kind of proposing the same thing as what's there on a slightly larger scale. We recognize that requires a waiver to 4.2 for the 50-foot no disturbance zone, but we requested that waiver on the basis that we don't require any tree clearing or removal of vegetation for the project. The existing edge of lawn will be maintained. Basically, we're going to be removing a house and replacing it in kind, slightly larger, with mitigation proposed as well. So,
Can you give us a rough idea of the impervious surface, like whether it's
Comparison.
increasing or decreasing?
So there's a table on the plan, and
Within the 50 particularly?
well, within the 50, I didn't break it down, but the existing impervious is 1,930 square feet, and the proposed is 2,456. So it's about a 500 to 600 square foot increase in impervious cover. And for the whole project site. For the work within the buffer zone, I'm going to say we've got.
You mean the 50?
I'm sorry, within the 50. I can roughly calculate it.
And how close is it to the 50?
So the existing stairs to the house are at 36 feet, and the proposed deck is at 28 feet.
So it's closer than the existing.
It's closer
house.
than the existing, yeah. I mean, if it were, it could be configured such that it were no closer than, but reading the bylaw, I wasn't sure that how the commission interpreted the no increase in nonconformity, if that meant setback or intensity as well, so.
Any kind
Both.
of.
Any construction.
Any kind of.
Can the house be moved closer to the street?
Cannot. I mean, we're at the 30-foot setback on both streets in this direction and this direction. So
What's the existing house setback? Is it currently non-conforming?
it's currently non-conforming.
Have you been to ZBA?
Not by much.
Have you been to ZBA? Because they.
No.
Okay.
Why, I'm sorry, why would we do
The
that?
zoning board of appeals.
No, I know what the ZBA is.
Okay.
I don't know why we would petition them for this.
So if you have a currently non-conforming lot, which applies to a lot in Littleton, you can talk to the zoning board of appeals to see if you can get the setbacks reduced a little bit and to pull it out, because, from a wetland standpoint and our bylaws standpoint, there's a pretty high bar to get a waiver, and certainly for something that has more impact than what you're replacing. And so, perhaps there's an argument to replace in kind what's there. If you want to do more than that, that's, I don't know that we've ever approved that.
Yeah, if it's not a public safety.
He'd be pulling it 20
Right.
feet though.
You'd have to have a public interest.
Not necessarily. What if you made the house, wider and then got, some relief from the zoning? We had the Mill Pond project.
Yeah, no,
Got
I'm
a
with
reduced
you.
setback from the road. And so between that, that lot was much
Did
tinier.
that go through the zoning board of appeals?
Yeah.
Then that's the direction you should go.
Well,
Because that's what we did with another landowner.
Before we jump ship on this, though, I'd just like to get a sense of parameters for, what would be.
So no closer.
No build.
No closer than and no more impervious than.
Right.
It exists.
That's what I would say. Yeah.
Currently. And if we can get relief from Board of Appeals to increase the footprint in that direction, be amenable to that.
Right, and if the discussion is that, the tree needs to be removed, then that's a discussion we can have as an alternatives type of discussion. But in order to do the waiver and try to, you would need to do an alternatives analysis, and, that's kind of an effort too.
Yeah, you look at the project as as a whole. And there's a marginal increase in impervious cover for the whole project, and that could be entirely mitigated by replacing the driveway with a impervious pavement, say. That would reduce the impervious cover by about 700 square feet, and then we'd have less impervious. But we would still have the issue of the 50 foot.
Yeah,
Right.
So we could, I'm just talking
Yeah.
along, so
No,
you
absolutely.
just jump in when I go off track.
Sure.
So,
Yeah, I mean, we want to send you in the right direction.
yeah, I just want to have good parameters to
Within the
proceed.
50 particularly, we want equal amount of impervious to the previous structure.
So,
Or less.
but there's no way via site mitigation that the commission would be amenable to a waiver because the site is currently developed and unmitigated. We're proposing to make minor modifications to the site and mitigate.
It would have to be in the public interest, it has to benefit the public.
Like, is there lawn
That'd
right?
be
Is
the
there
argument.
lawn right up against the wetland?
No. So the
Okay.
wetland is in blue, and the dark green is sort of the natural
The
area,
woodline.
and the brown is the edge of the existing lawn. And it kind of continues right on to the next lot there.
Mm-hmm.
So the erosion control line comes up there, but the edge of lawn is there.
Because we have been amenable to naturalizing
Naturalizing
areas
lawn.
of lawn and to compensate for potential encroachment into the 50.
So,
Expanding a wetland? Is that what you're saying?
No,
No.
expanding the buffer.
But
the
Reducing
naturalized
lawn.
buffer.
So if the impervious cover
You wanna
were increased
expand
within
the
the
wetland.
50, but there were areas of lawn that were reclaimed and naturalized in equal amounts, that plus mitigation of drainage.
Those have been things that we have worked on other projects with.
Of course, we would prefer, if you are to increase impervious surface within the 50, we need an alternatives analysis to show that you have to do that.
Right.
That you're forced to do that.
I mean, I've read the bylaw. It's all pretty new to, but relatively to regulation. So I'm trying to get up to speed.
Or
So
keep the house
Yeah.
on the existing footprint.
the
Take
house really
down and use the exact same
it
footprint.
doesn't really work though. It's a bungalow. It's it's kind of tiny with a detached one-car garage. I mean, it's not really serviceable
No,
by
well, I was just saying
modern
that's an
standards.
option for you.
Sure. Well, so since I had never taken an application through under the bylaw, I wanted to come in with this plan and get a sense of if it, this is worth attacking or if there were alternatives that we could pursue.
Right.
I think that this is a good plan the way that it is, and not discarding the constraints of the bylaw, but I think there should be a distinction between an undeveloped lot versus a lot that existed
there-
prior
There is,
to.
if it was undeveloped, you would have nothing in the 50
Right.
at all whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right.
So because it's developed and
We're
because
allowing
there
the
was already
existing-
But if
building
you've got
in
an
the 50,
existing house
there's
that's
your difference.
entirely within the 50, no one can do anything with their house. I mean,
They can, they just did.
They can rebuild on the existing footprint.
yeah.
Otherwise, it's a conversation and an alternatives analysis.
And maybe mitigation,
Yeah.
So-
improvement of the environmental.
I think you can
Right.
gain some frontage potentially by talking to the ZBA
Yeah.
and moving the
There's
house up.
definitely
I'm not sure
precedent
how
for
much-
them
I'm not
giving-
sure how much.
Well,
what
I mean,
they
right,
have-
the existing house is about 25, and the proposed is about 30, which is the minimum. So, I mean, could we talk to them about going down to 25
I
or
would get
20
as much
feet?
as you can.
And that would
Yeah.
pull
There's definitely
the house
precedent
That would
for it.
save you a
forward.
driveway cost.
Well, yeah, there's that. There's also the deck in the back, which,
You may have
Well, and
to
it's
give.
currently non-conforming.
well,
They could-
may have to-
And there's
but
the
if
new
you could
bylaw.
propose that in the setback
On
on
the
the
side.
side yard, it
Yep.
would also
Right.
get you.
Yep,
to
that's,
50.
there you
Exactly.
go.
So-
Yeah, now you're thinking.
I don't know. Well, again, no, I'm looking for feedback. So
Yeah,
I,
that's good.
I want.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's exactly how we want the
I'm
conversation
trying
go.
to, apply a pretty rigid
Which-
standard to something that
We're
wasn't
really
built.
holding firm in this 50,
Yeah.
and it's a very high bar to get a waiver.
And has there been any thought about regulating pre-existing non-conforming properties differently than new construction? Because
We do.
Yeah.
Oh,
We
they
do,
are.
because you can
They're
you can
allowed.
redevelop up to where it was you know, your boundary is where it was before, it's redevelopment of the house. You're putting the house in a new location, and that's what's tripping this conversation.
Well, and we're putting the house in the same location, it's just sort of got a marginally larger footprint.
Well,
you
it's
know,
within
yeah.
28 feet instead of 36 feet.
As soon as you expand,
Right.
you've lost that original footprint.
You don't maintain your line. It's just
So
a
it
different
doesn't matter
conversation.
how much larger, as soon as you go off that.
So if we can get the impervious cover to match within the 50,
Right.
and
That
to
would be
get the
ideal.
setback to not encroach any closer than the existing,
That's a different conversation.
then what we do between the 50 and 100 is negotiable with mitigation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yep.
okay. I don't know how long it will take to get a Board of Appeals application filed and can we continue this for
Yeah.
at least a month and maybe
Oh, yeah.
more?
Well, we can keep
Yeah,
putting
we
it
can.
on the agenda, and then you could call Amy and let her know if you've got the, and then we can
Keep
just keep
continuing.
continuing it.
Yeah, so we can add you to the 11th, or if you want, we can just do the 25th, or maybe a.
Well, I just, the
ZBA meets once a month.
The ZBA meets once a month and they need an application, I think,
Right.
2 or
Yeah.
3 weeks prior,
We're
so,
probably talking about
you
a
know,
couple of
it's-
months, but
Right.
Well, let's put one for the month, not the next one in 2 weeks, but the next monthly one.
All right.
And then if you've made no headway, just call Amy, or we can put you a couple months out. It's your
Right.
choice.
It's a little out of sequence, but I have photographs of the site if you haven't
I'll-
had the
I'll
opportunity to
take a
see
look
it
at
without
the
the snow
photographs.
cover. These were
That
taken
doesn't
in the fall, so just kind of give you an idea of what's there and.
oh, it is a pretty short.
And is there
Yeah.
any public comment, or would anybody like to speak out on this?
I just have a question. I'm not sure if this is the right venue to bring up this, but the house is covered in asbestos siding, and I'm just wondering what the remediation requirements are for when the demolition does happen, the asbestos siding. I'm just concerned because the way the airflow is in the neighborhood, everything ends up in our yard.
Okay.
So I don't
Well, that's
wanna-
not really our jurisdiction, but.
Okay.
Right. But you say I have some answers
The
too.
building department would address that when you get a building permit.
I can comment.
Yeah, sure.
Well, it just, so when they go for a demolition permit, they apply for a building permit for that demo. They have to have a pre-demo inspection done, and they identify any hazardous materials that have to be removed prior to demolition. Those all have to be handled by state licensed contractors with
Right. And
best
the-
management practices.
And the state licensed contractors, they have the specific procedures to, if they need to wet it down to prevent dust, if they need monitors, they'll have those, that type of thing. It's pretty heavily regulated. But it's through the building department, and if you're concerned, you certainly call the town while it's happening and,
Yes.
So how do you, would that it tested? How do you know that it's asbestos?
Well, the testing
I
you
think
have to
she-
do before the demolition?
Yeah, the inspection is required. So if a testing company comes in, inspects the house, they take samples, they go to the lab, they determine whether it's the siding, the flooring in the house, et cetera. They go through the whole house,
it's
paint.
the age of the house too, like
Right.
certain building materials were used in certain years.
So they'll get identified and then.
And the listing for the house listed it as asbestos siding, the original listing for the
Yep,
house.
well, that's a good indication.
Okay, is there any other public comment? Does the board have anything else?
I have one other question.
Oh, sure,
for you.
absolutely.
I'm just thinking, I don't know that if it would be helpful or not. I really need to speak to the Board of Appeals Secretary about getting a negative action from you to present to them as a hardship, We could say we came to you and we were encouraged to go to ZBA. Again, we can leave it open for now, but it might be that we have to reapply after getting denied, and that would be evidence of our
For
hardship.
ZBA, I don't think you have to.
No.
I
I
don't
prefer
think
not to.
that's the case. They're,
Pond.
yeah, no, they're they're aware of the bylaws and the constraints it puts on what you want to do. And so there have been many projects that have kind of gone back, and like Board of Health is a really common one that, you know, kind of goes back and forth. And actually, I think it's good that you're pulling the septic as far away as you can. Are you looking for any variances for the septic? Okay. Because that's a good thing for us to know.
Yeah, septic's approved and
Okay.
permitted with Neshoba, so
Okay.
that part of it's done. We did that before we
Yep.
came to you. I think we included the permit in the NOI application.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I did see that. Yeah, so though in general, other, the boards kind of, people bounce
Yeah.
around between us to try to get,
Okay.
get the balance of what is needed.
All right, so you'll put me at about a month or so? Is that
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah. And then I could at least,
You know what the date is?
So that would be what
We can give you the date.
You got March 11th and March 25th.
do you want to do like the 11th?
yeah. I mean, so
Yeah,
I mean,
we'll-
at least
we'll
at that
do-
point.
We'll put you on the agenda,
Yeah.
and then you can call Amy and let her know which kind of headway you've made
Yeah.
with ZBA.
It's March 11th?
That will at least keep you going and keep
Yeah.
the project moving.
Yeah.
All right, March 11th.
I mean, I think I have some good direction to.
Yeah, no, I think you get good
Yeah.
direction, yeah.
I'm encouraged, even though it's not exactly what
Yeah,
I'm
no,
looking
we've,
for.
yeah. It's not that we haven't done this kind of
Sure.
thing before.
But I won't get an agenda time, just the date for now.
Just the date for now, yeah.
Until the agenda's published. Yeah. Okay. All right, I won't interrupt you again.
Oh, no. All right, so did anybody else have any comments, questions before we continue the public hearing? All right, so we'll continue this to March 11th.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great night.
I have a comment.
Oh, do you have a comment? Yes.
I think your board is fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
Well, put us in for a raise. I'm definitely not making enough money.
$0.
0 times 0.
100% raise on $0.
All right, so
Thank
we'll,
you.
All right.
Thank you.
You're not going to believe this. I was here at 9:15 thinking that the meeting was at 9:15. And I thought, well, don't those people all volunteer? Don't they have jobs? They can't be going away from their jobs.
We do have jobs.
And I thought,
We sure do.
it's
Oh, 9:15 a.m. Yeah. No.
I get to sleep at my job
None of the
tomorrow.
public can be here. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wait, are you back? You're back, right?
I'm back.
Yeah.
So
I never left.
Oh, you didn't?
I was never on
Oh,
furlough.
good. Yeah.
Excellent.
Me neither.
How comes?
Good to go.
I'm
You're an essential.
You're essential?
No, I'm not essential. I'm funded through a different source of money.
Yeah.
Same as you.
Yeah, we were appropriated already. So
Yeah.
it's fine. Like the whole.
So we'll go ahead and open up the 9:30 public hearing notice of intent, Crestview and Boxborough Roads, DEP file number 204-878, proposed shared driveway with intermittent stream crossing. Would anybody like to speak to that?
Hello, Neil Gorman from Dayard Ross Associates, and I'm here with the property owner Justin Smith. And, this is a continued hearing. I had sent Amy along some information. I'm not sure if she made copies for you. If not, I've made extra copies for you.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
So here's the supplemental information.
So I have the electronic files. If you need it.
And then I have some 11 by 17s that match the drawing on the board there.
Can the audience members see that?
If not, I have some smaller copies.
You can probably turn it.
Oh yeah, if you could turn it just slightly, just so everybody could see it.
Can you see it?
Yeah, thanks.
We'll turn-
have to wait until Julie comes back.
Take one down.
Close to
Skeleton crew tonight. Yeah. She's just using. So we'll just have to wait just a
That's
second
fine.
Until Julie gets back.
I'll hand this to you. This will make
Oh, thanks.
I don't know if you want to pass these on to Amy. These were full-size
Oh,
copies
thank
for her
you.
file. Long night for you guys.
Very long night.
Oh, it's been worse.
Has a strong economy, that's what that happens.
All right. So if you'd wanna.
All right.
Yep.
So at the last meeting, we had left off at being, wondering if there was a way to increase our replication area from the 1-to-1 ratio that we had originally proposed and asking a waiver from the wetland bylaw of a 3-to-1 ratio. This revised plan does increase the wetland replication area to a 3-to-1 ratio, which is 7,000 square feet of replication in this area and another 500 square feet of replication where it was originally proposed. We had some replication area on the very toe of the slope, the steep slope on this side of the wetland, but after further review, this is a much flatter area, and if you actually go in there, it looks quite disturbed already, and a lot of fill and boulders piled in there, and the vegetation looks quite young, relatively speaking to the other side of the wetland. So to create a wetland in that area where it's flatter, where everybody's been talking about so much water coming down in this direction, it's going to create a larger area, more volume. And I know Carl's concern was it's being near the road, so what we've maintained is a 50-foot or greater separation between the road and the edge of that replication area, which there'll be vegetation there as well. The road does have a berm on it and has its own stormwater system. So, whatever stormwater is in the road, I don't see any impact of it getting into the wetland area that's being built. Another question from the last meeting was the large culvert that is at the property line here. Where does it go? One of the neighbors here from number 19 last week, which is across the street. That culvert, it's a 36-inch culvert, does not connect to the Crestview stormwater system. It goes directly under that, outlets at this point, and then continues on. And that is all part of the original subdivision plan from 1962. So highlighted in yellow is our locus area. This blue is an easement, drainage easement for that culvert. So the culvert goes under Crestview Road and outlets in here. It continues on to the property of the Foltz property and then goes subsurface again under his fields and daylights out towards Newtown Road. So it is not part of the Crestview drainage system. I did further research of the Crestview drainage system, looking inside each one of the catch basins and storm drains to see where the pipes were all going. And everything is flowing in this direction and gets to this point and splits to a wet area in here and another wet area on this side. So that whole Crestview Road, you know, enters into wetland areas that were, I think, originally created when the subdivision was created. It does not go across the street to the gentleman that house there that's being inundated with water. So that water is all on this side of Newtown Road. So going back to our site, we're proposing the 3-to-1 replication area here in the red hatch on the east side of the wetland and in proximity to where the bridge work is proposed. Another aspect of the design was what type of public interest could be incorporated. They talked about, it was brought up, can some land be kind of associated with the town from this development? In talking with Justin, we came up with a plan that would create a 2.5 acre piece of land here, which would have 30 feet of frontage on Crestview Road, and also 50 feet of access point to the town land to the rear, which could provide foot traffic to that location from Crestview Road, so direct access from Crestview to the town land. It would also provide access for all these abutters. There's about 6 abutters that touch that land right now. So what that does is it reduces the sizes of these 2 lots that we had. This would be now about 3.5 acres, and this was up well over 6 acres, and it's under 6 acres now. So that would be kind of the product of the public interest. There's also a fairly large debris pile here, probably from the neighborhood. A lot of grass clippings. I see some Japanese knotweed thrown in there, some other branches. I mean, part of that we could clean that up for you as well and get that out of there because it is close to the wetlands. We don't want that Japanese knotweed spreading into the wetlands. And then the major concern was the stormwater. So we've started our stormwater analysis, in which we are proposing a 4-bay and a detention basin here, which would collect the runoff from the impervious surfaces at the top of the hill and be directed to here, which is outside the 100-foot buffer zone. This portion of the snaked part of the driveway would go into another 4-bay and detention basin here, and then the remaining part would go into some infiltration here at the road. So those numbers are still all being finalized right now. I don't have the full stormwater report, but we wanted to bring tonight the proposal of a larger replication area to eliminate that waiver, the gift portion of the land to connect town land to Crestview Road and the abutting properties, and know that the stormwater looks like it's going to all work for, which is the DEP stormwater, which is we can't increase the amount of volume into that area. We have 5 design points right now. There's a design point that comes to the rear of the property here, a second one to a wetland in the back, a third over in this corner. The main part is a 4th design point that comes to this culvert, and then the 5th is what goes out to the road. So, like I said, we're about 75–80% of the way of finalizing that design, but before we finalize all that, we want to make sure we were on the right path with the replication, the public interest property, and the general layout of what we have now. So that's what that letter introduces. The last thing that was introduced in the letter, which I dropped off to you, was the stream stats report from the USGS. I believe Anna was mentioned it. Is this watershed of water that's feeding into this culvert in this stream considered a perennial stream or a year-round stream? And there are some criteria in the Wetlands Protection Act talking about the watershed. What's that area? And you need 1 square mile of watershed that feeds that. And this report that I gave to the commission says this watershed that feeds this water here is only at 0.05 square miles. So we're well under a square mile. There is another threshold that if you're at a half of a square mile, and that area that is feeding the watershed is what they call a stratified drift, which is more gravelly sandy material, eskers, which we know we don't have out here. We have more higher content of silt and clay. So we don't meet that threshold either. The stream is not shown on the USGS map as perennial or even intermittent. So we believe that it is intermittent, but it's certainly not a perennial stream for our research that we've done. So I don't know if that answers Anna's question or not. So in a more blown up version of the driveway, I'm trying to see you have the road at the bottom. There you see the detention basin located here, followed by some grass swales and riprap swales, with another detention basin here, with some more riprap and grass swales before the water ultimately reaches the stream. So the goal is to get that water to slow down, and as well as get the sediments to be removed out of those through those different filters, so that in the end we're not impacting the wetland in the culvert down here any more than it currently does as it is. So again, that final report, which is a pretty exhaustive report, would soon follow if the commission seems like we're on the right path here with the other items of their concern. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
How are you gonna get water over to those 4 bays?
This is
Also when it's sheet flowing down the road?
the sheet flow with the channelized swale.
On the side of it?
Yeah, right in here, there's a channelized swale. So this is gonna be sheet flowed to that off with the pavement, but the channel flow into this 4 bay. This will be, there's a channel right along the driveway and the retaining wall on the downhill side of the driveway. So the driveway will be pitched to feed into that swale. So it'll be going through that swale and then into the next 4 bay area.
So-
Before we get farther,
Yeah.
unless you have something directly,
No,
I don't
yeah.
want to interrupt you.
Right.
It looks like, is the driveway is 12 feet wide up until you get to the very top, basically? Is that?
If there's a 16-foot wide entrance,
Yep.
then it is 12 feet wide all the way up, yes.
Okay. So 2 cars can't really pass each other?
Correct. That's why there's 2 built-in turnouts. One
Okay, I think I missed that.
One down
It's
here
hard
by
to
the
see.
bridge, and then another one up here at the
Oh,
corner.
okay. Yeah, that was hard to see.
Yeah, on the smaller
Okay,
ones,
I'm
it's
just
a lot.
picturing like
No, it's
winter
common on
ice
longer
and like.
driveways that are shared.
So before we got too far, if you needed pull-out areas, I wanted to be able to discuss those in the
No,
stormwater.
we've
I
had
just
them in there
didn't
from
see
day
them.
one.
Okay.
So have you calculated, you're still
Again, we're still
you're still
finalizing the
calculating the hydrology? Yeah, okay.
I mean,
So
we've got
these 4 bays may have to be different size, they may have to be sized larger, or?
My most recent calcs before tonight, they might be just a hair smaller than they need to be, but.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why the turnouts are on the same side?
Just for where there's spots that are gonna be a little bit flatter for the grading purposes, and sight lines as well. I mean, this turning point is right at a corner. This one here is near the bridge area where there is, again, a nice flatter area, so it's a little bit safer.
But nothing near the
Again, it's-
wetland.
I'm sorry?
The curve at the wetland, I don't see one.
This one right here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean farther.
Well,
that
there's enough room
west.
for 2 cars at the entrance, that's 16 feet wide.
Sure, yeah.
And then this entrance is only sight line, you'll be able to see a car right from there.
Okay. I just logistically, I want to make sure we're talking about what we need to talk
Huh.
about, and we don't, come back
Understood.
later, because that, I mean, that.
Typically, it's for
throw
every
off a lot.
300 feet of the driveway, you want a turning point.
Right, and I'm just thinking that curve that's just west of your wetland line, the other one.
Yeah.
No, between the 2.
Top right in the middle.
The
Right
middle,
Or right
yeah.
here.
I assumed, I was looking for one there.
Okay. Well,
I don't know if one needs to be there,
between
but.
the two, too. The
Yeah.
lighting times you can see between 2 turnouts. Really, you can see the whole driveway from the road to the very top.
And what is the width of that box culvert? I don't see a dimension there.
Down here,
Yeah, the bottom box culvert.
the box culvert has a span of 11.2 feet in its width or length on this, so the side-by-side is 24 feet.
So a width of 11 feet by 24 feet,
11 by 24.
and it's a box, so it's brought in pieces.
Yes, the footings are independent of
Yeah.
the roof. It's concrete.
Yeah, no, I'm familiar with it.
And the footings will be outside of the stream area and the vegetated wetland area. It's in the
So,
upland area.
so remind me of what's the percentage of fill material versus restoration?
I'm sorry?
Fill material, how much fill material in the wetland?
In the wetland is
Yeah.
2,300 square feet.
And your
Replication
restoration area is
comes
what?
to 7,500. 7,000 plus 500, two separate areas. So it's greater than 3 to 1, just by a
So,
little.
and then we also, because they're within 50 feet,
Mhm.
that comes into play too.
Yep.
You hit our bylaw too, because you're within, the driveway is within 50 feet.
Yeah, we've asked for a waiver for that, obviously.
That's why they gave that parcel.
Right.
They-
Oh, is that the,
Yeah,
is
that's
that,
part of the public
that's part of the
interest.
public interest?
Mhm.
The top of that parcel connects to the existing trail too.
Yeah, it's
So
great.
really, there's no other way
So-
to divert that off of these lots.
So
Unless we
would
do that.
would you be able to put a parking area?
Yeah,
Where Crestview,
there's like a dumping area right now that you could put a little gravel pad for a couple cars.
It's about 30 feet wide at the road, so you have access to
And
at least a couple cars.
You might
Choke
ask
out the
about
knotweed.
like how navigable these wetlands are. I mean,
Yeah.
there are wetlands in town that are certainly wetter. You could walk through there. You could maybe do something with.
so,
Yeah,
so
exactly.
people could, you could actually go from Crestview without getting soaking wet?
Yeah, there's actually like an island
It's really
in
not
the middle here.
that- I mean, the wettest it's probably ever been is like this fall. You know, we got that exorbitant amount of rain.
I was out there a couple weeks ago and I was hopscotching from rock to rock.
So I have a couple
Yes.
questions.
Oh, yeah, no, we haven't, are you ready? Are you
We
ready?
haven't opened yet?
Are you open up to
Absolutely,
the-
yes. If you could just state your name and address for the record.
Yeah, is it okay?
Oh, yeah,
now, or-
absolutely.
or-
Yeah,
okay.
no.
All right, so I'm Jen Boyer, and I live on 18 Boxborough, and I just have a couple questions. Can I point
Please
this
do,
here?
sure.
Okay. All right, first of all, I have to say I'm really impressed with what you guys have done on this.
Thanks.
Okay, so I have a couple questions. Having now lived here and have a pretty steep driveway that's coming down here with drainage problems, right? So I have a question about the drainage that's coming here, right? You said you're gonna steep the driveway this way, right? So that these are draining
Mhm.
here, right? But you still have water that's coming down here and is going to pool in this area, right?
No, it's all still going downhill.
Downhill. But are you saying that this water right here is, where is this gonna go?
That's
Is it
still going down the hill.
down here?
So here-
Because we have a problem with ours where it crosses our driveway, and so I'm just. with
Right, yours
the
is
new
coming from
owners-
your road, right.
Yeah, so with the new owners up here, right, if the water's coming down here, is it gonna wash out that road eventually? Because water flows straight down, easiest path, right? Do you see what I'm saying?
It's going perpendicular with the land, yes.
Right, so.
Yeah, we have a retaining wall proposed on this side. So
Okay, so, but eventually, my question is, will it pool there and eventually, like, leave a pothole under the road?
No.
Like, because the drainage on mine is really awful, so I'm very
This is-
aware of,
This is
of
a much
how it
higher grade
drains,
of
right?
design than just a single-family driveway. So,
Which I did
right.
not do.
Yes.
I didn't do
So in
it.
other
Thankfully, you're
words,
not
you're
a-
thinking maybe there should be another culvert or
something
something
to,
underneath that to lead to the
Or-
other.
yeah, or like put a pipe underneath here to lead to that other drainage, right? So that you're not getting washed out roads or pooling right there, you know what I mean? Like,
You could do some calculations too, so you don't, right now, if it just goes, I mean, I hear what you're saying, it absolutely is gonna go that way, because the water doesn't care, but
Right.
you need more drainage structures to also not impact the other abutters on the other
And
side
there's
of the
nothing
driveway.
being affected to the abutters. Again, we're keeping it all on the property and steering it with swales.
Well,
and
Yeah, no, I know
So
that's the
do have-
idea.
I do have a question though about one of the swells. So where is the ferrule?
Right here.
Right here. So one of your swells is right here, right?
Yeah.
Which is fairly close to the
Yeah.
ferrules. So this is to slow it down, right?
Collect it,
Infiltrated.
And infiltrate
filtrate it.
Right,
And then
but,
this structure here has an outfall, it has a lower elevation,
Okay.
so once it reaches a certain point, it will outfall this way.
okay, but then how do you keep
Yeah.
it from draining into her property?
That's where the swale is designed in through here. The topography will be structured in such a way to create a natural, earthen shaped swale, so it doesn't go here.
And then, but where will it go?
It's gonna be going through a filter process and then end up in the stream here.
In here?
Yep.
Like then filters
So
into?
then across and onto my property.
Again, but the stormwater calculations that we have to prepare, that before we do a pre-existing study of where all this water is going, and we come up with a number of cubic feet per second. And then we run all the calculations with the infrastructure that we're putting in. And the end result has to be that it's not any greater than what would naturally go there now without it. So even though we're creating impervious areas, the ultimate goal of the design has to be that now we're not adding a higher volume of water to that design point.
And the
So-
design process, like what you put in here, will not erode away with time?
Right. It's gonna be rip-rap like a heavy
Okay. All right.
structure. Yeah.
Okay, my other question was, I really like these pullouts, right, because it can be tricky. But one of the questions I have is with snow removal. This is a super long driveway. It's gonna have a lot of snow that's gonna be pushed up. And my guess is that a plow service will probably use those areas to put snow in the wintertime.
Hopefully they won't, so.
But where do they put it?
Well, we
otherwise,
should have,
right?
we should, as part of this process, have
Right.
designated areas for snow placement.
The end result,
Typically, that's
Right.
what we would do.
Right.
That's
And
what,
you
that's
don't
what,
plow it into wetlands.
that's what we would
Right.
expect as
right,
part of
that
this
final
process.
stormwater report has an operation and maintenance plan for this whole thing,
Okay.
which will spell it exactly.
And what right now is material that is proposed to finish the driveway with? Is it gravel?
I believe it's gonna be pavement, correct?
It's pavement, okay, because.
Because of the steep slopes that we're
Yeah,
dealing with, we don't want
Because you're gonna
gravel.
get just
Right.
gravel
Gully.
deposited
Yeah.
everywhere. Because we get our neighbors gravel down our
Yeah.
driveway.
No, good questions.
Okay, and then, my last question has to be, can we put this one back up?
This one.
Thank you. So this right here,
Mhm.
right? So this is my property,
Mhm.
and this is a pond, right? That goes pretty far into our property, right?
Yep.
So my concern is, and actually I think it's brilliant that you've put this in here, right? But my concern is that if we make this, you know, we donate it and people start using it as a trailway, that to get around this, it's that the easiest way is actually up into my property. You know what I
Wow.
mean?
Yeah.
So
You're
that
afraid
is-
you're gonna have trespassers.
Right, which we already do, because the trail up here is naturally into our property. So the neighbors use it all the time, which is fine. We're neighbors, right? I don't make a big deal about it. But if we start having just random people from the town come up, I have 5 kids.
Yeah.
So to have like,
wouldn't be
and the
fun
neighbors
that way.
here have little kids, so to have just random people from the town
Yeah.
coming and accessing my property, you know what I mean? I do like the idea of having a way for them to access this road down here to go the bus, but my concern is, what do we do here? And I'm assuming we can't build bridges or things through here because it's wetlands, right?
Sometimes
It's been done.
Boardwalks.
Boardwalks have been done.
Boardwalks?
Yep.
So there should be
Cloverdale right now.
a designated trail that stays away from your property.
Which I would see, that's why I've left enough room between that line and the wetland on this side to keep them away from your property.
Right.
How
So-
wide is that?
How
I'm sorry?
wide is this right here?
Yeah, how wide is your
It's
line
like
to the edge of the
10, 12, 15, about 10 to 15 feet between the edge of the wetland and the property line, the proposed property line.
And we could have signage guide
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
That's what
There's
it
certainly
is.
a couple of no trespassing signs pointing this way.
You could have no trespassing, you know, so the idea would be to keep people off the property.
Right, right.
Not encourage people.
Right.
Well, and the Littleton Conservation Trust too, that, you know, they have the land stewards, and so they maintain trails, and people really stay on the
Boy
trails.
Scouts
not-
usually like to do projects like that as well. They're before the commissions all the time to
Right,
do that
they're,
type of
yeah.
work.
No, but that, I mean, that point is definitely taken. I wouldn't be thrilled either.
Right,
At all.
right. And you know, I've worked with the town and seen these people come up and say, not my backyard, I don't want this land sold, right? Can you please buy it? And now I'm in that same situation, right? So I understand it, I just want to point it out, right? That it is kind of an encroachment in here, but
No, there are definitely
anyway.
things that would need to be addressed as far as, you know, private property encroachment,
Right.
as well as
Well, and
protecting the wetland and the pond.
Yeah,
from-
because with the wetlands, there, I mean, there's a, personally, you know,
Yeah.
we can't do anything in
Right.
here. So is the town held to the same standard? Or,
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, all right, those are my questions.
That
concerns.
pond also comes down right to the border of that parcel. So how are people gonna get around down the bottom left corner? It literally touches.
No, there's a wetland, yes, but the pond is up here. You can
I
walk
thought that-
through.
I thought that blue line was pretty much the pond.
No, it's the edge of the wetlands, which wetlands sometimes are
So-
ponds, sometimes they're swampy areas, sometimes they're types of
And
sources.
there's a river.
It's probably gonna have to put some type of elevated boardwalk, I would think,
Yeah.
to
Why
get
is-
over that.
Well, and just so you know too, like the
That's-
water
yeah.
that flows from my driveway comes like down here and it flows like down here
Mhm.
and it stays pretty wet most
Yeah,
of the
again,
year.
We know it's wet. Again, I was out there 2 weeks ago when we've had all this rain, and you can walk through there just by stepping on boulders, and
And
it spreads out quite a bit down here, and it kind of disperses. It
Right.
is ponded at the very top, yes, and then
Right.
it just kind of filters down. But
right.
again, they're by foot. Again, you don't want a wide open path so someone can take a vehicle through there. So that's the danger. You don't want motorized vehicles and what do you call them, four-wheelers and things riding through there. So
Right.
you don't want to make it too easy an access for them to want to drive through there,
Right.
which they won't be able to. They'll get stuck.
Yeah, and just for future, there's a farmland that has been cleared a lot, and the neighbors are worried about that being developed. And when that does, we're gonna have a lot more water runoff that could potentially go down here. Now, I understand that doesn't deal with you,
But
but
again-
it's something to look at in the future because it's not draining into a drainage system.
Where is it?
Well, yeah, what farmland are we talking about?
The White House,
Joyce's
Joyce's
The land that was on
property.
the table to be purchased by the town.
Wait, Joyce.
The
town
30
did buy
acre
that.
Joyce
swap.
Williams?
Yeah, yeah. Williams.
Did,
Yeah,
Yes.
we own that.
did they buy the whole parcel?
Not the entire parcel.
So the parcel that wasn't purchased.
They did leave a piece that they can develop. So
Right.
The boys, when
Right.
Mrs. Williams is gone, you can plan on houses.
Right, right. And so when that happens, you can also plan on more water
Yeah,
coming down,
yeah.
right?
And
Speak-
Mrs. Williams is.
That's a good point, because that is,
Well, it's something to be addressed because the
Yeah,
Massachusetts
'cause we're aware-
stormwater
and we're aware of it.
regulations,
Yeah.
like you need to keep your stormwater on your land.
Right, so
But
right,
it's definitely something to address.
right, because right now the
for sure.
stormwater, what
It's
I
a good
pointed out
point.
in our last meeting is the stormwater
Yeah.
goes underneath the road
Mhm.
and drains down my driveway and down into this piece right
Prior
here.
to your lot being developed to, the neighbor was over the line with their fill. So they had filled over the property line, which was a no-no. Just saying.
Right, the yellow, are you talking about the yellow house?
No, I'm saying
Which
right
house are you
here,
talking about?
right? This
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
filled over into your lot, making it so when the driveway was installed, it was able to be actually at a higher elevation, which is a good thing.
Right.
But that was only because they went over the property line when they built that house.
Your water's coming from Boxborough Road.
Right, and
It
I
had been that
do
way
know
for
that.
years, for 40 years, 30
Yeah,
years,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not saying it's something new, I'm just saying that that slope that was put in there was done by your neighbor 30 years ago.
Did you have a question?
I do have a question. So,
I'm sorry, could you state your name?
I'm sorry, Jackie Farrell. This is me, the funky shaped one here. Yeah, so, before my question to do with my property, I want to understand, you were talking about the catch basin. To me, the water that's coming down through this land is coming from like that whole big hill that goes up to Newtown, because that's where like it all comes down from. So how can it only be like 0.05 of a square mile or whatever you said? Like I don't understand.
Again, that's USGS, it's by a square mile, that's their calculation, you go on their website.
And they
And
calculated on
and this
that.
is even encompassing more of an area than, I pointed way down to the stream on the Fultz land.
Yeah.
And that, it calculates that.
It
It's not something I
calculates where
calculate.
it's gonna pour from down those hills?
Yep.
Wow, well, that's
Based on the
remarkable.
topography.
I'll just say that's remarkable.
It calculates the watershed.
Right.
Now, whether the watershed is correct is another question.
Like
If
this
the
water over here,
watershed-
just
if
so
the
you know,
watershed's not
a
correct, it's not
raindrop that hits
calculated.
here ends up in this property.
Right.
Not everything ends up here from our,
How does it,
Right.
do you have to put the water, do you put the watershed in? Do you calculate where the watershed is by contour lines? Do you put that in, or is
not on, that particular stream stat was based on you find the stream on the USGS map, and it tells you if it already has it calculated in. No, we didn't do the
So the-
topography for,
The stream is already on the USGS map?
down by Newtown Road, there's a stream,
That one,
yes,
okay.
and then there's,
Not the one you were looking at.
But-
Because if it's perennial and it's on the USGS map, then
that's
it's
on the property way
riverfront
down, it
and
runs
not
parallel
in-
to Newtown
Okay.
Road, which we're way beyond.
Okay.
Yeah. So it calculates that watershed, so,
Okay.
and I know
Okay,
Amy
so-
looked at it too, and she said we were way under, so. I'm not
Yeah,
surprised.
0.05 is way.
Yeah.
Okay, so I do not understand
Yeah,
any
I
of
know.
that.
It
I'll
took me a
just
long
say
time
that
to
right
get
now
to.
because there is a lot of water that comes
Sure.
down that hill, and
Yeah.
you all know that. You've all seen it now, I think. So I'm still kind of digesting what you did here, which I like. I'm at least happy that there's planning going on for where water lands, but I don't think what you've drawn accounts for the fact that we've got this part cleared in an area that drains directly into mine, and they can't possibly not be more runoff because of that clearing.
Well, it's all
I'm
based on what it
also-
lands on, so.
I'm also, I've kind of sat in on enough of these things that I understand you guys are very concerned with maintainability, because of course, once this is built and sold, somebody else has it, and where they put their snow, and what they feed their grass, and all of that stuff is still, my level of concern is very, very high. Let's just put it that way, and I also would like to understand how this is not gonna result in more water into our basements.
Well, we're not doing anything over here. This is the woods,
No,
and it's
but
gonna be
this
the woods.
changes, the elevation changes here.
Again, that's all factored
And-
in our report that we have to submit. There's
Okay.
all sorts of,
So am I right in understanding that you can't be sending more water into my, into my property?
the end result is, yes, we can.
Than, than
That's-
before the project?
We have to prove that,
Okay.
yes.
So,
Can you explain how cutting of trees incorporated into your calculations?
So the pre-existing conditions is based on the slope of the land, the type of soil. There's, say, 4 categories, A, B, C, and D. A being the most pervious, and D being the least pervious. This particular property,
So it's soil type, not necessarily vegetation.
it factors in all of it.
It's not very dense up there in the building envelopes either.
So we-
Tree-wise. It's not.
The calculations take into account everything from, is it woodland? And then is it light underbrush or thick underbrush? What's the slope of the land? At what rate does that land naturally receive water? Because all those play as a factor as when a raindrop hits a high point, where is it gonna go?
So it's a before and after thing. You
So
do
we
it
have to do a
without
pre-existing,
building, and then-
we have 5 design points I mentioned. There's a design point on this property line. There's a design point that some of the topography goes to the wetland in the rear. This part of the property angles to this corner. The major part of the middle goes to the wetland down at the bottom, and then there's a high point here in which the raindrop hits here, it's gonna go to the road. So again, we have 5 design points, and for a 2 and a 10-year storm, we have to prove the 2 and 10-year storms don't have a higher volume of water going to those 5 design points based on these structures or stormwater systems that we put into play. The whole goal is to try to collect the water, slow it down, get it to infiltrate into the ground naturally so it's not running off the surface and flooding everybody out. So the stormwater report, if we get to that point, will be about this thick of calculations that even beyond my pay grade, someone else has that Excel worksheet already prepared, and it's all DEP, issued, and we have to run the numbers. So, like I said, we're about 75% of the way there right now with what we have here. As Carla mentioned, these detention basins may get a little bit larger, but again, that's just gonna hold more water. But the end result is that the water in our land is not going to flood everybody else. We're not gonna make it rain more here.
So at the very first meeting you presented at, I believe, Julie, you expressed a concern about what disrupting the
Cutting the slope and
thank
having
you,
groundwater
what
seeps.
whether we would end up with more springs.
Yep.
And have
Well, you will. If
had
you
a
cut the
chance-
slope and intersect the groundwater, you will create
More water.
more seeps. And what was represented at that meeting was that an assessment has at least preliminarily been done about the elevation of groundwater, and that construction is not supposed to intersect that. If we are moving
Right.
forward, I would certainly like to see
Yeah.
quite a bit more information about
Sure.
that,
Again,
because
but-
it's a hillside, and you cut into a hillside, you absolutely will create a groundwater seep. But there's also, a swale on the south side of the driveway, so if it's pitched that way, it should collect it, but it is coming out, so that will need to be,
But
that's
the swale
absolutely a
is
factor.
gonna be in fill, so that's gonna be above existing grade naturally, so,
Okay. So I'm talking about like on the
uphill side.
the uphill side, you create your groundwater seep, and then it flows downhill. In some instances, it will flow across the driveway
Mhm.
or down the driveway. And so I think basically the point is you will do the calculations and have enough infrastructure to capture that as well, because that counts as runoff. And I would imagine you will get unanticipated seeps, because nothing's perfect, and so I would over-engineer that.
So I have
Ryan,
a couple, sorry, go, no, go on.
I was just gonna say that for swale though, my impression was, that lately they've been encouraging vegetated swales, not riprap swales, because riprap increases the velocity of water, not decreases
Okay.
it. So I would encourage you to look at, I don't know if there are calculations you can do to compare those
Yeah, we can,
surfaces
yeah.
for the swales,
Yeah.
and see which one is more advantageous to slowing water down.
Less maintenance too, if
And
it's
less
vegetated,
maintenance,
because
yeah.
if it's
Mhm.
riprap or gravel or something with it, some sort of filtration, if you said that there's silt, right? Like the site's
What's commonly
characterized
used
by
is
silt.
grass swales on a sloping land, and what they do is they
Yeah.
put check dams every 25 or 30
Right.
feet, so that they slow down at each
Mhm.
But if your
segment, so
native
that you
site
get some
soils have a high component of silt, you're going to clog up your riprap and your filtration system for your drainage. So that's a concern too, which
Yeah, again,
may
that's all part of the
vegetation.
maintenance
Yep.
plan that is included in that stormwater report. There's an operation and maintenance plan.
I think we need to keep focused that these are homeowners, and we need to not, as much as possible, minimize
Maintenance.
excessive engineering maintenance that would be,
Understood.
expected of an environmental consultant.
Right.
Because then if you.
They won't do it.
Right, and you got two
Right,
families.
and then you
sharing
have
that,
neighbor-
and it's like, who is it? And
Right. It
Yeah.
won't
they
get
do
done.
it. It just, no.
Well, and then there will be
I have a
issues, and you call the
shared
town.
driveway agreement.
Right, right,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
It's pretty
it's,
detailed, which we can
you know,
bring with us. if
yeah,
you'd like
so
to
we
see
have the
that.
opportunity to,
done.
anticipate this and, do something about it.
Yeah.
I had a couple of questions, if I may.
Yes.
Yeah,
Sure.
of course.
Bolts, Newtown
Could you-
Road.
okay, good.
The plan is putting leaching fields, septic systems, in the middle of potentially, well, near at least, wetlands. So that means that now we're going to have added to the wetlands human sewage, although admittedly septic systems work pretty well. So I'm not excessively worried about that, but it is a factor, and it's a pretty large. the primary leaching field in both cases is very small, but what bothers me is that the proposed future expansion leaching field is like 3 times bigger in both cases than the primary, if I'm accurately reading the picture.
You are
It's
not.
like-
You are not.
Okay, because it looks deceiving, so, and that's why I wanted to bring that.
Would you like me to explain it to you?
Yes.
Okay. What's shown on there in the bold lines are leaching trenches, which are 2 feet wide, say a couple feet deep, of crushed stone with a perforated pipe in them. And on this, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. And then Title V, which is the environmental code for septic systems, we are allowed to put the future expansion trenches in between the primary ones. So we have 5 trenches running laterally with the parallel with the lay of the land. And the future expansion trenches, if the primary one were ever to fail, because they are filters, just like an air filter in a car, they could go back and build new leaching trenches in between the existing ones. So we have 5 primary and 5 reserve. So the reserve one is just one, it extends 4 feet further down the hill than the primary. Your other issue about leaching systems and wetlands, State Environmental Code Title V requires only a 50-foot offset. This one here is probably 150 feet away, the leaching system itself, not the fill. Those racetrack lines around the outside are the fill. The leaching system is those trenches. So we're 3 times further away than Title V at the state code. Littleton has their own regulation that we have to be at least 100 feet away, so we meet both of those codes. So that we are protecting the wetlands from any infiltration of sewage.
I had a couple other questions. It looks like you're really trying to address, like the last driveway was almost a straight shot, and we were just basically going to become the end point of a river. And so I see you tried to address that, but I don't see or haven't heard how you're going to address the salt and fertilizer and other things that will end up in the wetlands. I know you got pitch too and this, that, and the other thing, but the snow is going to have salt in it because people are going to salt, they're going to have to salt this driveway heavily.
Yeah.
Or they're never going to get
They
this
can't salt
driveway.
in the wetland or the 50.
Well, then how are, then toward the
They can't
new
do it.
owner's perspective, how are they gonna get up their
well,
driveway if they can't salt
You
it?
can't legislate all of it.
And you guys aren't gonna be out there to make sure they don't, my wife watches the boat property.
Yes. No, I
obviously,
Yep.
and has called you on that one. So I'm just, these are just,
Yep.
I'm not, again, from previous meetings, we're not saying we don't want him to build the houses, we're saying we wanna make sure that all the factors are
And again, that's part
which I
of
know
this-
you are as well.
That's
So
part of that
one the things,
stormwater
you know,
report as well, is those infrastructure that we're putting in are to help clean that water. Those detention basins, that's their
Right,
purpose.
but they're gonna salt all the way down, so.
Right, and we have different ones all the way along that are gonna help intercept that and recharge things. So again, this isn't,
I'm not trying to get into a.
That's fine.
I hope you.
We can
that
ask
you've
for
seen
no
them.
salt zones too. I don't know if you've noticed, driving in Concord is very different from driving here because they just don't, they just don't salt their roads.
Yeah.
Because they're very environmentally conscious.
Well, then I'm,
So we could
friendly with
we could ask for
electrical-
signs.
You can put an electric heating
Oh, yeah.
component along.
Although is
every
that prone to breaking?
Oh, under the road,
Yeah.
under the driveway?
I know a person in Concord with a driveway that's heated. It's very steep,
Yeah.
so they need.
It's a little expensive.
Well, if you're gonna
My-
cross
my
a
driveway.
wetland,
Wetland area?
you're gonna, no, I mean, like, literally, this is something to think about, you know,
The-
signage.
The tree maintenance that was just discussed, like, are there any, or would there be any, I don't know if the right word, easement or whatever, that says they can't cut more trees down? I'm not trying to restrict what people can do on their own property, but if someone moves in here and they say, well, there's too much forest, I'm gonna just clear cut the whole thing, which, you know, in theory, under a normal housing lot. In fact, we had the person down in the corner of Crestview that basically did that. He moved from the city, didn't like all the trees, cut them down. We had a fear he was putting a house in at the time, and he didn't, but, He still wiped out
We could probably
basically
put-
the entire forest.
We could probably put something like that in the order of conditions.
Yeah, again, these are just things that I'm thinking about. You cut more trees down, you get more water. You get more water, of course, the one thing goes, I am impressed with the fact that they are trying to help us. If I were the Farrells, though, I would be really concerned because a lot of the mitigation is right on their property, and I'm not sure what they can do about that, but, all the swales and so forth are essentially on their property. So, or not on it, but right beside it, and they already have a water problem. I know they have a water problem because we have a water problem, we're below them, so.
We do, we have a water problem. Can I ask a couple more questions?
Yes, I do want to point out though that we do have one more public hearing scheduled for tonight.
Sorry. I have a couple questions as to, I mean, we're gonna have to continue anyway, so I'll open.
Okay.
Unless it's gonna help
Maybe
them
it's-
develop.
Okay,
If
well,
it's gonna help
I
them
would
develop
like
a better
to-
plan, then it's better to talk
We're gonna come
about
back
it.
with a more complete version of this.
Again, but we just
And
wanna
I
make sure we're on the right track.
appreciate that. I would just like to say that I appreciate that they are a lot closer to fulfilling the requisites for asking for a variance. I am unclear as to who decides whether it's actually a public benefit to have this parcel of land and how that works. And I still don't think that this wetland is gonna survive this development 20 years from now. So
I don't think this is gonna survive them building the house, quite
so
honestly.
that's where that's all.
Is there any other public comment? Anything anybody would like to say?
Actually, that is one thing, that's the infiltration basin number 2
Mhm.
is entirely within the 50.
Mhm.
Is there any way to move it outside of 50?
Again, it's in an area, it's kind of strategically placed based on the lay of the land, the topography. It starts to get a little less steep in that area, a little bit easier to build. And it's at a point where that S turn is happening, that it's gonna be able to direct the water to that location. And it's on the, I guess, the driveway side of where the wetland's gonna be, where, that portion of the wetland that's nearest to right now is actually gonna be built. So the new wetland line will actually be on the other side of the driveway at that point. That make sense?
The new wetland line?
Yeah,
Oh,
because they're
we're filling
filling.
this portion
they're
here, so the
filling
wetland line will
where-
actually be on the new edge of the wetlands will be on the opposite side of the driveway from that area.
Has anyone validated that there are no animals, creatures, whatever the word is I should be using?
Yep, it's not within a designated natural heritage area.
That's
which
not
is-
what I was asking. You're gonna wipe out an entire piece of your property.
He's asking about overcoming the wildlife habitat threshold in the Wetlands Act, right? Has there been a wildlife impact survey done
No.
to see what's going on in there? Right, that's what you're
That's
asking.
what I was asking, yeah.
That's something the board's gonna ask for.
That would be helpful.
But before we go much further, may I just ask, for Mr. Smith's purposes, are we near or close
You're heading
or
the right
at
direction.
the public interest? We don't wanna keep designing and spending
No.
everybody's time
No.
here if at the end result we're
No,
gonna get a no.
I think you're definitely,
Okay.
yep, you're getting
We know
close.
engineering's not cheap.
Yeah, we don't wanna, like,
No, I just don't wanna lead him on. We've worked with Justin for years.
No.
And, we just
No,
wanna.
this is,
No, you wanna get to the no, you don't wanna be led on if the answer's no.
No, you're heading, I think you're definitely heading in the right direction, there's no question. We're still
But
working,
you're not saying-
I'm not saying anything, I'm saying they're heading the right direction. So I don't want them to think at the end of this thing,
Right.
it could be a big fat no. We're not saying that. I'm not
But
saying
at
it's
the
a
same
yes
time, we're trying to
either.
get an honest
But we
evaluation
can't, but
of
we
where we
can't
stand
lead them,
today.
we can't lead them down, down a path if it's gonna be, like a complete roadblock. We'll continue to work on this to try and make this a better project. That's our goal here.
Right, that's been the goal all along.
So,
I think we've made steps. We've
you've made
answered a lot of
you've made
questions.
very good advanced steps. We're still working
Your
on the
input's helpful,
hydrology.
that puts
Yeah,
it,
I do have just one kind of last thing if you're done, Carl.
I'll take notes.
It's pretty quick. Parcel A, I was just wondering how the southern boundary was determined. I know you mentioned the thing about motorized vehicles and wanting to create control, but for the property to be beneficial and useful to the town, getting around that wetland, is, if we're blocked off by a wetland, it's
Useless.
perhaps not as useful. So I was just wondering if you could give some thought into that southern boundary and perhaps widening it a little bit to the south. Just
I mean, this is all
kinda-
wet here.
The access point?
no, like up here, like this type of thing.
Along the left edge of the wetland, you mean?
Yeah, like I
Property
feel
line
like
here.
this would make it more usable. This is
Tight.
it's really tight. So I have some concerns, and so if we're going to grant a waiver based on the value of a property, for me that would
I think it also
that would
addresses
help.
the Boyer concern.
Right, so they're
which is a
not. So
trespassing
it would
concern.
clearly have them.
Something else about that trail too, I wanted to say to you is
I
that,
just don't know if
so
there's-
right now it comes through here and then it comes in here, but it would suggest to take you right into this house, right? So theoretically, if this
Yeah,
gets
we wouldn't
built,
wanna
they
do
would
that.
come out this way, have the option to go into the trail, and then we could divert it right here. So we can suggest that. The way that it flows now, it doesn't flow to come in and just wander over here. I've walked in there a lot of times.
Right,
So I'm saying somebody will come in, they will see a trail that exists that will just dead end here. Now it goes through the property and goes back out here. So
That's what it is now?
the town now owns 5 acres right here, which anybody could just walk right through here and connect the trail as it is. It's just, you would have to stay off of my land essentially.
so-
I don't mind that that's being done, but it's technically
Yeah,
my
you're
land.
friendly on the trail, because right now, I see people that come here, they'll come here and come down and go along here.
Yeah.
That's what they do now.
That's not what it suggests to do. It suggests to come, there's a small parcel across from the White
Yeah,
House.
yeah.
It gets very tight, and it narrows in and comes right out here. And then it comes right through.
I have the
goes
map.
right back up and around the end of the dead end.
I have the map from the 90s that shows where that trail is. I'll bring it in. But
Okay.
I know
I
they
think
want to
we
get
can-
home and they
yeah.
have another hearing.
No,
so
we have another hearing.
May
We
we
can-
continue the hearing?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
We can address, we can definitely address,
I wouldn't want to be. I can
paths.
Yeah, let's
meet
talk
you
in
out
the
there,
hall.
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So if there isn't any further public comment or board members comment, I'd like to continue this hearing to
20.
February
February
11th.
Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
Thanks for the work you're doing.
Yes. Thank you.
I get up at 4:30 in the morning, so.
Oh, jeez.
All right, so our next public hearing is the notice of intent for 225 Taylor Street, Mass DEP file number 204-8 blank. Is anybody here to speak to that?
I think they're out in the hall.
Yeah, I'll send them in. There they come.
From a trail standpoint, but just a thought. Thank you.
Oh, what time does the camera stop rolling at 11:25?
I've got to
I think
leave
that's what
by
he said.
10:50, so that's my cutoff.
10:50?
10:50.
Oh, jeez, okay.
Right, you don't deliver for the post
I still have
office.
to get up early, oh my gosh.
I'm driving to Hadley tomorrow, so if I can hang in there, you can hang
No.
I have to run meetings all day tomorrow.
Oh, boy. Good for you. Project manager.
Yeah, I inherited some good ones too.
Well, I bet you did. You work for the Corps of Engineers.
Yeah, I usually right. I live right out there.
Oh, yeah. All right.
I'm sure you're having fun.
It is fun. I really like it.
It's a
I'm
good
actually
job.
very happy.
It's a good agency.
It is.
I just,
So we're ready.
Come back, girl.
I
You're
pick
ready.
on you, that's all.
Oh, could you actually face that towards the audience so they can see it? Thanks.
I work for the good guys, Jolie.
I agree.
Can you guys see it?
No, I looked at the alternatives. Can I see it?
Should I go ahead?
Yep, you can go ahead.
So, hello everyone. It's been a while since we first introduced this project. My name is Will Park, civil engineer with SMA in Cambridge. With me is Ed Scioli from the Gutierrez Company and Matt Devlin from AECom. Is there any particular order you'd like me to address things in? Or should I just
go ahead.
Go ahead. So, we've been in touch with members of the commission and Amy since the last time we were here. First thing we did was a site visit with several members of the commission, including Anna, Sarah, and Amy. They requested Matt do some further investigations, which he did, in the area in between these two wetlands here to see if there was a connection. And again, if there was if this wetland, it's not numbered on this plan, if this wetland continued further than we had shown it. He provided some additional data forms and performed another site visit, and that was all deemed to be acceptable. And our plans are now updated to include a small isolated wetland here. And since then, we've done an additional survey to locate these to the limits of the debris pile that's out there on site was questioned in the field, and the additional survey that we received a week or so ago confirmed that it was different than what we had been shown on the plans. I'm not sure where the original one came from. Maybe they traced it from an old ortho photograph, which that technology wasn't that great when the survey was originally done. So the exhibits, does everyone have a copy of this or no? Sorry, I meant to hand out copies.
I have everything electronically.
We have updated it slightly to
My
incorporate
screen will
the
be more-
new survey information.
This is the tires and.
Correct.
Tires, cars.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Can we get some back here?
Oh, yeah, I'd like to look at it. I don't know looking at it. Oh, thanks.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I thought you guys were together. So, we did an initial survey, and that has since been included in the plans. We also provided additional documentation for the water quality volume and the calculations. Some of them were meant to be included in the original NOI. A lot of collating that needs to happen, those were missed. Those are now included in addition to some of the calculations that we worked with the manufacturer of the pretreatment units, Contec. We've included their sizing requirements and details in our C-142 and 141 and 142 sheets, more clearly identified where those units are. To get right into the bulk of it, we received clear feedback at the last hearing that the commission would like to see an expanded waiver request and alternatives analysis, which is what we provided, this 4-page document with summary tables and then the 4 exhibits that are also included as 11 by 17s in the back. Would you like me to talk through those right now? So this is for the I'll zoom in. The notice of intent showed the internal cross-connection road filling just under 5,000 square feet of wetland with a slope and then disturbance within the 50-foot no disturb buffer of around 25,000 square feet. We received feedback to look at alternatives to this roadway alignment, and that's what we've done here. Do you mind if I sit here and just kind of point through this?
Sure.
So the first alternative, what we're calling alternative one, so the black and white is what we had submitted in the NOI. The wetland filling and the 3-to-1 wetland replication associated with that. The red is the alternative layout, and the green is new grading and retaining wall spot grades associated with that new layout. Alternative one, and then the next page of each of these is the various 50-foot buffer disturbances. What we've done is we've reduced, in both the alternatives 1 and 2, reduced the wetland disturbance from roughly 5,000 square feet of fill to roughly 600 square feet of alteration at the point of crossing. It's gone, as I said, from a fill to an alteration with an open box culvert to allow for wildlife to more easily get from one side to the other. Alternative one, quote, reduces as best we can the 50-foot disturbance. But what it does is, in our opinion, creates a very unsafe traffic pattern by going, again, this is the primary entrance into the project, 330,000 square feet of office space and hundreds of employees. This is their main entrance. So this alternative brings that access drive from here next to the building, in between parking spaces, and crosses the wetland as close as we can get to the property line, right up against the landscape buffer. Disadvantages of this is the wetland actually widens at that point. So we're altering more area. The second,
When you say alter, what do you mean by alter?
Just cutting the trees. So it's a conversion of basically a forested wetland down to a shrub emergent wetland. So rather than placement of fill in the wetland, the wetland hydrology in the ground will remain. So it's just,
So no structures in the wetland?
we're gonna span it. We're
Okay.
gonna span the wetland.
But you would need to cut the vegetation down.
Yeah, cut
to-
the trees down to more of
Okay,
a span
thanks for the
that.
clarification. Appreciate that.
and they'd come in with fill in aggregate crushed stone base and then drop the precast structures, the box.
And those are outside the wetland, but within the 50?
Correct. So this thick black line here is
Yep.
the box culvert.
Okay.
The blue is the, if you look at the key up here,
Yep.
the 50-foot disturbance associated with the crossing. The second alternative, which is our preferred for several reasons, mainly it keeps the internal cross connection.
Sorry, is it,
Next one.
alternative layout 1?
Alternative layout 2. we're on
This
now.
is the alternative layout 1 also looks like.
So each alternative has 2 exhibits, one with and without hatches.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yep. This alternative is preferred because it keeps the internal cross-connection road without parking butting into it. So for a safety reason, you don't have cars parking and backing into this major drive aisle that will be receiving hundreds of cars a day. We've proposed a retaining, keep it on this one. We've proposed a retaining wall just beyond the guardrail of this, again, so that to
significantly reduced the wetland disturbance from just under 5,000 to roughly 600. And
that alteration crosses at the narrowest point of the wetland.
yeah, crosses at the narrowest point of the wetland so that the actual wetland alteration is lowered. Both of these exhibits kind of have a placeholder. You'll see over here, this green. Remember, the black and white is what we submitted in the NOI for wetland replication. With the significantly reduced wetland disturbance, the wetland replication area reduces down to that green.
So we have from about 15,000 square feet originally to about 1,700 now.
When we did the site walk, we observed this whole area. Anna, you might recall that this is kind of down where the standing water was, and kind of an ideal spot to expand the existing wetlands while keeping that very nice tree buffer between wetland A and the parking lot up here that we all agreed would be great to not cut and reduce the grade to. So we provided a more robust explanation, the 4 pages prior to these exhibits, for answering the waiver request form in more detail, how it meets the intent of the bylaw, describing the alternatives, and it is our hope that we could proceed with alternative 2, for the main reason being the safety that would be maintained along the cross-connection access drive and the smaller wetland disturbance.
Yeah, certainly for alternative 2, it's the curvature of the road is eliminated. That's the ideal scenario with a straighter road for safety, and then it crosses the wetland at the narrowest point, so the less amount of wetland impact. Those are the 2 factors.
Yeah. Other things, I breezed by this, I apologize. The yellow hatch that shows up on both of these, you can see the debris pile is this purple line here, kind of looks like a star. That is the area that Gutierrez is going to clean up. So the yellow is kind of like we're in that area anyway, improving it.
So for those who didn't go out on the sidewalk, it's like a large dumping ground, like old metal, cars, tires, and things. So
A significant amount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just bulky debris.
Yeah.
No like concerns about house waste or anything like that.
Well, I mean, there are vehicles there, so certainly some of them probably had gas tanks and things like that. So I think we will be getting DEP,
Like an MCP.
It's not a registered site, but obviously something for the cleanup effort, to get someone to take a look at that.
Well, you work for AECom, so I know
I
you've
do.
got staff who can
Certainly.
handle cleanup if need be.
Yeah, in the
Right.
cover letter, we say that it has not been identified as a Chapter 21E site, but
Okay.
moving forward, we'll engage DEP, the BWSC group, and take any restoration steps that are required.
Okay.
I appreciate you looking at these alternatives. Sorry I keep harping on this, but I still don't know why this and this area need to be connected.
So,
Can you give me, because I know this is supposed to be the main entrance, but there are 2 possible entrance points, so why do you have to connect them?
well, this layout was vetted every which way with planning board and conservation, all the way up through MIPA when it was originally designed. Square footage of this size and this many, a site of this size and the square footage of office requires 2 points of entry.
2
And
points of entry for each,
for the combined campus.
for the combined.
So I had asked you to go back to ask the planning board about the entrances, because I understand this was designed a while ago. Had you had a chance to do that? Because it says planning board suggested, which is kind of light language, so I'm wondering you know, we had asked you to go back to the planning board to see, you know, given the amount of time, what, you know, what their views were, especially given the environmental constraints.
I apologize. We did not speak to them.
I know you had a long list, so it's
Yeah.
understandable, but we did ask you to do that, and we kind of still maintain in the kind of along the vein of what Anna's talking about. You know, for an alternatives analysis, we need to know what's necessary, and so information suggested by the planning board many years ago, you might understand it was, you know, may not be as relevant now, especially given like the town bylaws change. And it's still a great impact. Right?
Yeah, no, well, I mean, combine this plus these may need 2 entrances, but if they're separate, if you have an entrance for this and 1 entrance for this, would it work? Because you have an alternatives analysis, but it just seems like just very small changes. It's not like out of the box, okay, how can you really reduce the impact? Because you're still having a wetland crossing, you're within the 50 a lot, and it's very kind of small alteration, you know, alternatives analysis, honestly. I would like to see something that might have it possible not to have the crossing, and whether that's possible.
I can't speak for the planning board, but it's my opinion that especially the buildings to the south here require 2 distinct entrances and that benefits from them being separated closer to building 3. It's hard to imagine a scenario where those could be accessed by a singular access. Then someone would probably request an emergency access, like some sort of gravel drive out the back, which is not feasible because it's all surrounded by wetlands. So I think it was determined then that this is the easiest and less impactful way to provide that cross connection.
I mean, it should be, I mean, the Point has 1 access, the big shopping development with thousands and thousands of cars every day.
Things have changed.
1 access, in and out.
In order for us to grant a waiver, we need to know it's not possible to do something else. Like the basis for which your alternatives analysis doesn't include, you know, what's impossible to do in the eyes of the planning board, or what the town is telling you have to do, because the information is old. And I know, you know, engineering and consulting is not cheap, and I truly appreciate trying to do, you know, what you're trying to do with the information at hand, and that's valuable. However, our bylaws have changed, including planning too, and projects have been given, you know, various variances surrounding access, and I personally don't feel we have enough information to go on to grant a waiver that this is the only way this site can be accessed.
Right.
And furthermore, for a waiver, you know, I appreciate the explanation of how the disturbance is minimized and the types of, you know, just the types of actions. So I did read through it, but what I still need to see is, you know, you can't create a problem and then fix that problem that you created. The wetlands are not impacted now, and so, you know, there needs to be, you know, more of like the waiver condition, like the public benefit part, or, you know, public safety. Like you can't create a public safety problem and then solve it, you know, through the waiver. And so what I need a little more to, like, from a waiver standpoint. And I really think your first step needs to be to talk to the planning board and get a much better understanding of what's possible, because these bylaws were not in place at that time. And so things, you know, context has changed, the bylaws have changed. And so you have grounds to go back to them and say, hey, listen, you know, here are some site constraints. You know, because we don't have a leg to stand on to give you a waiver based on what's here now. So you need to go and talk to them. And then you can say, the planning board requires X.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to build it unless we connect these two.
Right. And then we have a place to start. I mean, it's really important
I understand.
that you talk to the planning board.
Does
And I know
anybody-
you did a lot of work on this, but it's a basis.
No, it's a really good analysis. It's a lot of work.
Step, just one more step, just, we need some more
Okay.
around.
Does anybody have any public comment, questions on the project? I know it's so late, right? All right. Anybody from the board have any more questions, comments for the project? All right, so we've given you guys quite a bit of input tonight. We'll put you on for the next.
Just to, sorry, dry mouth. Any technical things, since we'll be back, that we need to address, just to get all feedback? Just the planning board is the only thing you need to hear back on?
We just want.
Is everything else?
We wanna
Confirmation
we
that
wanna
the cross connection
redesign.
road is still
Confirmation.
necessary.
Yeah, basically,
Yeah.
we want a redesign that gets you 100% out of the wetlands.
Mhm.
Because we need to grant you a waiver based on what our bylaw says we can grant you a waiver on. Right now, it's not, like, we can't, it's not there.
I
If it
understand.
was a currently
So-
developed property, we would be, you know.
It would be a
much-
different
you know,
position.
Different position, but this is an undeveloped property that.
No, I understand all
Well,
that. I guess what I was saying is, we addressed a lot of things here. Do they need
Yes,
to
you
be,
absolutely did.
other than the alternatives, do those need to be vetted further, or are they considered addressed?
What, the alternatives that you
The
presented?
site visits that AECom performed about the delineation, the additional survey, the statement about the debris pile, the water quality documentation. The alternatives analysis was one of half dozen things that we addressed. Are those considered addressed, or do we need to? Did Amy comment on the other kind of more technical things? Or should we keep those kind of on our radar?
I mean, it sounds like the lines were.
Well, boundaries confirmed
sounds like the
now.
lines
Yeah,
were-
we did the additional isolated vegetative wetland and
Basically just seeing if we
added
can
the
cross
bank, there's a
anything
bank
off
of
the
a
list.
stream out there
I-
now and.
Those, it definitely sounds good to me, those additional steps you took for, out of the result of our walk. Those, okay. Design, reduce wetland, very brief. What-
I mean, I can
what
follow
things
up with
that
Amy,
that-
but I was just curious if you all had an opinion that the other things
Did you
have
do
been
it?
addressed.
Did you do a due diligence for the property? Like the debris pile, was that like addressed in a due diligence at all or anything? Is there other documentation of it? That would be at the purchase of the property. Did you have due diligence done? Did your bank make you do that? No? Okay. Just curious. Because sometimes I can give you more insight into whether it would be.
Certainly if it was a recent purchase, that would have been
Well, 21.
identified.
It's been around since the 90s. Okay.
Amy does mention the possibility of a third-party review of stormwater.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't think we're there yet, though.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it's.
more alternatives first.
Yeah, I think the alternatives is definitely, the basis with which to have conversations about other things. I think, in general, I had a knee injury and couldn't walk around, otherwise I would have been there. But in general, minimizing the replication area, putting it in smart places, putting it somewhere where you don't have to cut, acres of trees to get your replication. And I think those are good things, and those are things that we like to see. But we still, the big question we need answered is, why does it have to be like this?
Why impact it at all?
And we don't.
We'll have that conversation.
Yeah.
And I know we gave you a long list. I know we gave you a long list last time of things to do, so it's understandable. But I know planning board meets twice a month.
Does it have to be the whole board, or would staff and maybe a board member be acceptable?
I think you
can
need a
meet with
full
the board.
board.
Yeah. Yeah, because they can't make a decision about your, like, they can't approve your design or discuss your design or any of that. They can't make any decisions about it. Certainly, requesting a meeting with, Marin, sometimes people request, just an informal informational so they can get a direction. That's certainly your prerogative. So she can say, usually they expect to see this. I mean, that might,
Yeah.
it would not hurt to make a phone call and see what would be time well spent. Or they're always a stickler for whatever. I mean, I think Amy does that. She runs interference for us. Like, make sure you have these things when you come to meet and, to have a successful meeting. So I would encourage you to do that too, but yeah, we need to know. Just getting back there.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. So I think that pretty much does it for tonight's meeting. Does anybody have any?
Really? Talk about something. Do we have any administrative items?
So I think
You a troublemaker?
I think we've covered just about everything. So without,
Motion to adjourn.
do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.